Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar today. I'm on a little bit early. I just thought maybe I might chat to you while we're waiting for everyone to come in. We've still got around 15 minutes or so before we'll get started officially. So welcome and well done if you've already discovered how to log into the chat window and you've typed your welcome message. So thank you so much. You're all so lovely and thankful and polite. It's really nice. It's really nice to see that everyone's saying thank you for the webinar. So, yeah, it's been an interesting time, and man, things are changing so rapidly. So I really do feel for all of you. I really do. It's hard. It's really hard. So I will type a quick message in the chat window just in case anyone needs to hit that play button on the screen. It looks like a lot of you are coming in to the session automatically, which is good. I'll just do that briefly. Okay, just pop that message in there. And just seeing where everyone's from. So it looks like we have pretty much all of Melbourne covered with the suburbs. So hello to Diana and Lonnie and Leona, Shepparton, nice work. Roz is in Northcote. Stephen, someone else who's, that's Leona again. Yes, thank you. You're welcome. Chantel covers Hampton, Thornbury, and St Albans. Wow, that's it's a decent drive between Hampton and Thornbury. Kind of annoying, to be honest. I always hate driving sort of north across the city. I don't know why. Clorinda, welcome. Mount Waverley, that's very close to me. I'm in Wheelers Hill, so we're just around the corner from each other, really. Welcome to Mark. Mark's at two schools. Excellent. And to Anne in Bendigo. I was in Bendigo just a few weeks ago. Welcome to Lorraine in Albury. I think you're the furthest away so far, Lorraine, from me, that is. Debbie's in Berwick. Yeah, first time teaching online, fun, and it has its challenges. Totally agree with that. Yeah. I think that's the attitude you need to take. That it is a bit scary, especially if you've never done stuff like this before, but it's really not too hard, which I'll go through. I want to make this totally attainable to anyone that's freaking out with the just start simple kind of approach. So I'm really hoping that that's going to be good for many of you who might never have done this sort of thing before. Welcome to Kate, who's in Geelong. Guest 2442, sorry, I don't know what your name is, but bass and guitar, excellent. David, guitar and ukulele. Oh, and by the way, if anyone can just confirm, I haven't scrolled down to the bottom. If anyone can just confirm and say, yes, you can hear me, that would be brilliant. Just to confirm that my audio is coming through to you. I'm chatting away, but you never know. If someone can just type in at the bottom, that would be brilliant. In the meantime, I'll just keep going through the welcomes. Yes, thank you. Okay, a few of you. Yeah, awesome. I usually do remember to ask that. That's a little tip actually for when you get on with students, like, can you hear me okay? It's fairly obvious when you're one-to-one, but when you're talking like I am from one to many and you're not actually able to talk back, sometimes you can go for a while and the other person pipes up in the end, I can't hear you. And you think, what? Funny. Not really funny at all. I'm going back. Where did I get to? Amy's in Geelong. Paula's in Camberwell. Karen, hello. John, Catherine. Roz, I lost my list then. Stacey, hello. Half classroom and half instrumental. Yep. Teacher in Box Hill. Excellent. And Ivanhoe. Ali's in Geelong as well. Guest 32211. Sorry, I always make the joke that the default guest name and number, like guest 3211, it just makes me feel like I'm addressing prisoners or something. Prisoner 543. There was the comment guest 3211. It's it's scrolling. It's going out of view really quickly here. So something about using a PC and not a laptop, desktop PC. I'm guessing you mean. Yep, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Excellent. I'm going to miss out on everyone. Oh, look, everyone's logging in now. Nathan, Cassie, Karen, Audrey, Keys, Roz. Oh, you're all confirming you can hear me. A few guest names, teacher in Malvern. Excellent. Mark, Beck, Diana, thank you. Peter, Rosie. Rosie asks, will this count towards PD? So, Rosie, I will provide you, this will be about 24 hours after the session. I will provide you with a PD certificate for the time. And then it's up to you to submit that as whatever you call it, teacher identified PD, whatever it is. So I guess in Victoria, it's not such a big deal. In some of the other states, in New South Wales, it needs to be like approved, blah, blah, blah. It's all very complex. But yes, you'll get a PD certificate so that you can use that. Neil, teaching private piano and at a high school. Watching from an iPad, yes, excellent. Oh, you've got that's good. It's good to have a nice studio setup. You ran a piano lesson last week via Zoom that worked well, and I could share the screen as well as use classroom resources. Excellent. Well done. Excellent. Keith, you don't have to keep quiet. I probably should have read that comment at the time that you made it. I've lost the thread of what we were talking about at that time. Sorry, I've missed the joke. Kathy's in Altona. Hugh, yes, Hugh, you're all good. Dorothy, Christopher, Charlotte, you made it. Thank you. Good. I'm glad to see you there. We had a few hurried emails this morning. Oh, just by the way, if you have friends that have not received the link, for some reason, some of the EduMail accounts, I don't know why, people were getting like one email from us, but not the other one or something. There was some weird stuff going on with emails not coming through. Unfortunately, we have no control over that. You could, for future, you could actually whitelist my email address, and I think that might help. Or some nice one of you can just ask the Vic department to add me to their whitelist, or whatever it is. I don't know if I'm making sense. Anyway, unfortunately, no control over, the blocking of certain emails through their filters. If you have friends that are not able to get on or they haven't received the link, you are welcome to send the link to the page that you're watching on. That is all they need. They just need the link to this page. So it's all good. And then you can watch. Suzanne from Point Lonsdale, excellent. Needing technology solutions for Teams and Zoom. Yeah, okay, quality. We're going to talk about quality and just some tips for making things better. I will talk about that more. I'm struggling to keep up with all the messages now, but welcome everyone. Look, 248 of us online at the moment. It's amazing. Yeah, okay. Yep, great. Suzanne, yeah, I think we'll cover those questions enough for you. I'll have Q&A time at the end as well where we can talk some more questions if needed. Sally, I think you're all good. Registration failed, you said on your iPad. No, I think we're all good. As long as you can see me and hear me and you can type in that chat window, that's all you need to do. Ekram from Altona, hello. Alice from Melbourne. Rasheen, I guess you pronounce that. Welcome, Helen, Katie. Hi, Katie. Nice name. Hello, Marina. Yes, you're all signed in. Great. Chris. Hi, Wendy. Okay, Wendy can't hear me, but you're going to update the browser to allow cookies. Okay, yep, good. Try that. That sounds good. Not that you can hear me saying this, but anyway. Diana. All right. Sally. Hey, Terry. Nice to see you online. Terry, awesome. Hello to the Sacred Heart crew. Hello to Marie, Will, Elaine, Ruth. Charlotte can't hear. Okay. Not sure about how to fix the sound problems. I'm just going to type in the window, press play on the video if you can't see me yet. Oh, Charlotte, awesome. You fixed it, however you fixed that. Actually, Charlotte, can you tell me what you did do to fix that? Was there any magic trick or it just started working? Just going back again, seeing where people are. I know I've missed some of you. Someone tell me the name. What I don't know if any of you will remember this. There was a kids show when I was young, like so it would have been in the late 70s, 80s kind of time. And the woman who was like the host on the show, they used to have kids in the studio, and she would look at the camera, pretending to look through like a magnifying glass, I guess, or into a mirror or something, and she would list all the names of kids she could see, but really she couldn't see them because they're on the other side of the TV screen. But anyway, does anyone know what show I'm talking about? I really tried to Google it the other day and I didn't know how to Google it in order to find the name. Anyway, I always feel like when I'm saying hello to people on sessions like this, I am like that woman. It's totally lost if I ask the American teachers that I sometimes train. That anyway, it's just funny. Hello to anyone that I've missed. Paolo, I won't try and say everybody's name now. It's all flooding in now. Oh, we've got 250 online. All right, I'm going to just type a message here. Excellent. Let me just see if I'm just checking whether, I don't know if anyone replied about the, oh, Charlotte. Yep, Charlotte can hear me. You just press play. Okay, good. Thank you. I just found you. That was what I was looking for. I was just looking for the answer. Excellent. Right. Oh, it was Romper Room. Oh, man. Look, you all knew. Of course it was Romper Room. Wow. My brain. I just could not think of what that show was. That's hilarious. Ross Deb, or is that Deb Ross? Yes, we will talk a little bit about microphones today. And welcome to the Bendigo crew. We've got crews all around the state. Look, everyone's remembering Romper with Mr. Davey. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was the magic mirror. I reckon too, Audrey. Yeah, that's it. The magic mirror thing. Yeah. Oh, Jerry's got the link. Awesome. Okay, excellent. All right. Genevieve's here. Lovely to see you, Genevieve. You're like the last message in the list here. All right, I'm going to start it. I'm going to just type one message into the window. The chat, and this is if you have friends saying, oh God, I can't get in. The chat window is full. It does not mean that you can't just watch the webinar. It just means the chat capacity is full, as in I have a limit to how many people can log in simultaneously. I actually upgraded my account to 250 at a time in a webinar for the chat window, hoping that might be enough, but I suspected today we might reach that. So that's okay. We've got that in. So even though the chat window is full, other people can still just watch the webinar. They just won't be able to type a message in there. Let me just type that in the window so people know. It's now full, but you can still watch the webinar. Please press play on the video to see and hear me. Okay. All right, I'm going to just switch a couple of things over here and share my screen and get started. Okay. So I will share my screen now, and then I will come back on at the end. So you'll be able to see me again at the end. But for now, you can just have a look at my screen instead. Excellent. All right. You should be able to see my slides now. And okay, that's looking good. Audrey, I was just reading your message about how do you share a screen? Yeah, this system that I'm using is not the one that I'm going to recommend you guys use when you're teaching lessons, and so I won't explain the steps in the system that I'm using. My system is for a one-to-many, sort of setup where it's just me talking at you, lecture style, whereas you're going to do the back and forth, one-on-one lesson thing. So I'll talk a little bit about that sort of thing as we go through and we talk about the options today. So I'll just do a brief intro and about me. I know many of you. I really recognise so many names on today. It's really nice because, I'm in Victoria, obviously, like most of you are. There may be an odd person here and there on today who's from interstate, but really it's all Victorian people. And I've met many of you over the years in workshops and around the traps, or I know you personally from different things. So if you don't know me, my name's Katie. I run my own business, Midnight Music, and I basically do training of music teachers in the area of technology, and that's the thing I've been doing for the past 10 years or so. I'm also a piano player, singer. I did double reeds when I was at school. I did recorder for my main instrument at university. These are little known facts about me. Some of you may not have known that. And I'm currently conducting a choir, which is really nice. So I am also kind of sort of not struggling, but finding the online platform very interesting for teaching music or for running rehearsals and that sort of thing. Now, today's session is presented by the Victorian Music Teachers Association. So Genevieve Newton was in touch with me and asked whether we might be able to do something like this. And I'm pretty sure we maybe only talked about it like last week, and already we're here. And we've turned this around very quickly. So thank you to Genevieve for everything that she's done. And she's doing some fantastic work with her team at the VMTA. They have lots of great resources for you. And it's really worthwhile. If you're not a member already, you really should join and get the support and all of the resources that the VMTA offers. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you have tech issues today, 99% of the time it's due to the internet connection. I will also be talking about that today with regard to teaching online too. Just try refreshing the browser and then pressing play on the video screen again. There's a little bit of a delay between what I am saying right this second and when you hear it. You won't really notice that during the session. Maybe you might just notice that when we're doing Q&A time at the end. So the chat window, I was going to say log in, but it's now full. It's not a big deal. You can still watch the webinar. You just won't be able to type into the chat window. If you are not able to type in the chat window and you have a burning question that I don't end up covering by the end of this session, feel free to contact me or contact Genevieve and she can pass the question on to me. We'll get to you somehow. We'll get the question answered. I am going to give you a copy of the slides that I'm showing today. I'm just going to tell you that up front so that if you're madly taking notes, feel free to take as many notes as you want. I think it's always good to do that, but I will also give you a copy of the slides in case you want to refer back to them. And I will try to look at the chat window every now and again. Because we have so many people online today, it's very likely that I'm going to miss some questions. I'm really going to save the bulk of the Q&A time for the end. So if you have a question and you type it in during the session, it may not get seen. Please type it in when we get to the Q&A time at the end. If you do type it in, I may see if I can check in with that chat window, but I don't want to disrupt the flow too much, and I have a lot to get through today. So we'll see how we go with that. And I can see already this is happening a little bit, which is awesome. If you see someone else type into the chat window about some issue that they're having or a question and you know the answer, please, please, please feel free to share your knowledge with them if you do know the answer to that question. It's a really good thing to do and helps me obviously as well. But if you do see that, please let them know if you've got an answer to the question. Couple of other things before we get stuck in. The session is being recorded, and Genevieve did mention that when she sent out the information about the session. You will all get a link to the replay of this session, so you can go through it again if you want to, or send it to someone else that didn't make it today. They will also get the link if they sent their email through to us. Having said that, we did have some issues with EduMail blocking emails that we sent out. It seemed to be a little bit random. It didn't seem to be everyone because lots of people did receive the link for today's session. But if you have a friend that didn't get it for some reason, you may pass it on. That's totally fine. And we will also, at the time we send out that replay link, there will also be, that will basically be to a web page where you'll be able to watch the video again. And there will also be underneath that the link to download the copy of my slides. There will be some other links that Genevieve has passed on to me for VMTA related web pages that are going to be useful to you, and also a link for where you can get your PD certificate for today. So if you can refrain from emailing us to ask where the PD certificate is, that would be great. It will be on the page. You'll essentially fill out a form and then the certificate will be sent to you. And I will just say that I actually run a free training like this every single month. It's around the middle of the month or so. This is not one of those sessions. This is an extra one. But if you want to keep in touch with us and join in with those sessions, they are free. Okay, so first things first, and this is the most important thing. Don't panic. Really don't panic. It's going to be okay. It's not too bad, and you will get through this. It's not forever. I think that's the main thing to keep in mind. I know this is kind of a scary time. I know that this is weird. You've done teaching for years and you're really good at it, and now things have all changed in the space of about 2 weeks. I know it's really hard work and it is kind of scary. But I think it's really important to remember that you know your content. You also know how to teach it, and you're also really awesome. So just bear those things in mind. One of the things that I think is really good at the moment, because everybody has been thrown in unexpectedly to this online teaching situation, I'm finding that lots of people are very forgiving. So don't stress too much. If things go terribly wrong in your first online lesson, don't worry about it. You'll fix it for the next one. It can actually be a good idea to choose the first student that you do this with. If you're a little bit worried about it, choose someone you know you've been teaching for a while and you're comfortable with them and you have a good rapport with them, and just say, hey, this is new to me. Can you help me work it out? Like it's okay. Don't worry too much. Today's session, I want to give an overview of solutions. So overview of ways to run online lessons. We're going to talk through the tech options. I'm going to talk also about tips for teaching in this format, because you have to adjust some things about the way that you teach. And I've put at the bottom, we can't cover everything. I really, really wanted to cover everything in this session, but we really can't. We'll be here forever. I could literally fill an entire day with this. We'll all go insane if we're on an online session all day, so we won't do that. So I will give you an overview of things. I will try to cover off on the really important things and the very common questions that I've seen arise. And there will be perhaps some other nitty-gritty stuff that you might need to go and follow up with. I'm not going to run through how to set up a Skype or Zoom account with you. There's hundreds of videos online that will show you how to do that, and I don't think that's the best use of this time. So things like that, I'll let you find out in your own time, but I will talk through the specific music teacher issues that you need to look out for. Okay, so with online teaching and doing lessons in this way, there are essentially two things that you need. Your content, and you've got that already, I know this, and you need the delivery method, and that's the tech side of things. The thing that you need to do is that you're going to have to rethink things a little bit. So the lessons will be different to normal. They're going to feel different to you. They will feel different to the student. You do need to be a little bit open and adaptable and flexible, and consider the challenges that students might be facing at home. And I'll talk more about those later, but they may include things like no internet access or very little internet access or no device to watch a lesson from. And there are some other things that we'll talk about there too. And the last thing on this slide, the tech does not need to be really hard. It really doesn't need to be hard. I'm going to show you the ways that you can start out really simple. And then if you want to, or when you're ready, you can level up to make things a little bit better. But you don't have to go the full whole hog in the first place. You don't need to go out and buy lots of equipment. We're going to start with what you have. So I just said start with the tech that you already have. That's really my number one thing. I'm going to also say to avoid stress, don't take on too many new things. If you're the sort of person who loves to take on new things, by all means go for it. If you're freaking out right now about all of my lessons need to change and I don't know how this is going to work, don't take on lots of new things at first. Get the basics happening, starting off, and then you can add in a new thing here and there if you're comfortable, if it's working okay. The biggest thing is to focus on the music, I think, and the learning outcomes. What do you want your students to achieve? Just focus on those things and keep those things going and keep everything very, very simple. All right. I'm just glancing over at the chat window here. Okay, great. Now, in terms of hardware, so let's get onto the tech side of things. I'm going to jump into this really early. So, tech side of things, hardware is actually what physical gear do you need to run online lessons? First of all, you need to use some kind of device. So, obviously, you're going to call the other student, connect with them somehow from a device. Now, you can do this on a range of devices, but I'm going to tell you now that the laptop, and when I say laptop or desktop computer, it can be either, is the easiest. So your sort of your main computer is going to be the easiest option for you. There are a number of reasons for that. The one of the main things is that when you're on your laptop or desktop computer, whatever system you're using to run the session, whether it's Zoom or Skype or FaceTime and so on, you have more screen space. That also allows you to see more options in the software that you're using. You can also often see more features in the software too. Sometimes you don't get all access to all of those on other devices. So I would highly, highly recommend that you use your laptop or desktop computer for running the session with your student. Now, having said that, you can use an iPad or another tablet. It's possible. I just don't think it's as good a choice if you've got access to a laptop. If the iPad is the only thing you've got, by all means use that. I'll talk a little bit about some of the limitations with the iPad or other tablets later on. And then the last option is to use just a smartphone as if you're making a FaceTime call to someone. Again, it's possible. And again, I don't think it's advisable. So I've put the things in the order that I think you should do them on the page here. And really, I would recommend laptop if you can. Now, in terms of microphones, a lot of people get very caught up with microphones and webcams and so on. And I'll talk through both of those options. But like I said earlier, I really think it's best if you've got nothing else, don't feel like you can't run a lesson. Just start off with your inbuilt mic. No, it's not going to be the best quality. It's not going to be the best experience for particularly the student at the other end, but it's also not going to be the end of the world. If that's all you have for now, start with that, and then you can add things in later on. If there was one thing you were going to level up with, this is the one I would do. I would do the microphone first. So when you're doing online lessons, obviously there's two main components. There's the sound, which is through a mic, and then there's the camera, which is the visual aspect. The visual aspect, generally speaking, is not as important as the audio for music lessons. Obviously, you want students to be able to see you clearly, but the audio is really important. So if there's just one thing you're going to level up with, this is the one I would choose. I'm going to show you some options later on. I've just put briefly there that you can choose to get a USB microphone or an XLR mic or a lapel mic and an audio interface. I will talk through those later on. I'm going to show you some pictures as well if you want to know more about what those options can be. In terms of the camera, again, start with your inbuilt camera if your device has one. So your laptop is very likely to already have one. If you are on an iPad or tablet, you're very likely to have one already there. If you're on a desktop computer, some of them do have an inbuilt camera there already. And if they don't, you'll need to get an external webcam. Now, if you want to level up with the camera side of things, even if your laptop already has an inbuilt camera, like my Mac does today, you can choose also to level up to a better quality webcam if you want to. The other option with getting an extra webcam or some other camera is that you can use two cameras if you want to in your lesson setup. You do not need to start with this option at all. You do not need to start with this. Start really simple, go with the inbuilt camera if that's what you have access to right now. And again, I'll talk a little bit about using a second device even as a camera. So if you do have a laptop and an iPad, you could potentially use the laptop as your main camera looking at you, and then you can have a second device plugged into your system and use the which could be an iPad, and that could actually act as a second camera. And again, I'm going to show you some pictures so that you can visualize how this works a bit later on. All right. I'm just checking in on the chat. I've seen that a few people are having issues and everyone's trying to help each other out. So thank you for those helping each other out. And please assure anyone that may be having issues hearing me or seeing me that the session is being recorded and they can come back to it later. Okay, with software, some general things to do with software. I really want to talk just briefly, well, not briefly, I want to talk in detail about the software options. So, when you have your laptop or your device, you need to connect with your students somehow, and you're going to use some kind of software application to do that with. I'm going to talk about the three main options, but before I do that, here are some general things that you need to know. There is latency or lag, some people call it lag, in any software that you use to run a lesson. There is no option that has no latency. Now, what I mean by that is that if you've tried this out with anyone, if you've logged in and had a student log in or a friend who's a musician log into the same call together, and you've tried to sing or play at the same time, and you've found that you cannot do that, there is no software that's going to fix that problem. That is just an issue with doing online lessons. I see a lot of people asking the question in Facebook groups about what is the better software option because this one doesn't do it well. I have an issue with latency or lag. None of them do. It's just not a possibility. You cannot play a duet online with someone in a different place to you. Now, the main reason for that is internet speed and bandwidth at both ends of the call. So issues are there, maybe at your end, maybe at your student's end, maybe at both. There's just never going to be a time where everything's perfectly in sync with one another. The other thing with online software that's going to allow you to connect with students for lessons is that a lot of people complain about the audio quality. And sometimes I see questions like, oh, I tried Zoom, but the audio quality was really terrible. So what's a better software option for me? Now, I'm going to suggest that perhaps that person did not go into the audio settings and actually optimize them all for the best experience. There are actually things you can do and change the settings to get a better result. You can reduce background noise. You can reduce the option of the software cutting in and out for your audio, which is one of the issues. You can also just fix up some of those mic sensitivity issues. So you just need to know a little bit about the software in order to fix those things. Again, there's no magic one that's going to be like the most perfect one. I will tell you the one that I think is better out of the three main options we'll discuss today. And then with the software, the last thing is that, obviously it uses your camera and there are settings that you can change within the camera. And also the biggest factor with the visual side of things is usually the lighting. So you need to be in a nice place which is well lit, whether that's daylight because you're running a daytime session and you need to have natural light in the room, or if you're running a session at nighttime, you'll need to make sure that the lighting is decent in the room so the student can see you. Nothing worse than you being in the dark while you're trying to teach. Okay, so main software options. Now I'm saying main, these are not the only three options, but these are the main options that you're going to consider. There's Zoom, there is Skype, and then there's FaceTime. I'm going to talk a little bit about all three of these options and why I think perhaps Zoom is the best option for you. But I'm going to address some of the issues, and I can see someone's just asked the question about how can you make the security better within Zoom, because that has been an issue recently. It's been very much in the media and so on. So Zoom, Skype, I think most of you are going to be familiar with Skype. Skype's been around forever and a day, and you can totally use Skype if you would like to. FaceTime is also a simple option to use, but FaceTime is Apple only. You need to have an Apple device, and your student needs to have an Apple device in order to use it. And for that reason, it's third on my list, really. If you're happy switching platforms and you're happy to say to your students, look, if you've got FaceTime, we'll use FaceTime. If you've got Skype, we'll use Skype. By all means, do that. But if you, as a teacher, want to just work from one platform, I would go for either Zoom or Skype. Now, I've put Zoom at the top because it has the most options in terms of the audio settings and the way that you manage students and lots of other things. So it has the most features. And for that reason, I do think it's a great option. However, if you really want to keep things simple and you don't care so much for bells and whistles, and you are maybe nervous about doing this in the first place, Skype will work perfectly fine for you. So don't feel bad about using Skype, even if you're hearing everyone else is using Zoom. Zoom, I found, I've been using Zoom for a number of years now, and nobody knew what Zoom was until really recently. And suddenly, with all of this that's going on, Zoom is all over the place. Everybody knows what Zoom is. It's quite amusing, I find. So let's talk about Zoom concerns. And yeah, I will actually just say, just going back to these software options, if you are attached to a school, so if you are employed at a school, you will probably or may need to go with whatever the school tells you to use. I haven't included on here Microsoft Teams and Google Hangouts, mainly because they are less of an option for sole trader, privately employed instrumental teachers. They tend to be used by schools, and so the school will have an account for one of those. So if you are being told that you need to use Microsoft Teams or Google Hangouts, it's called Hangouts Meet now. They've changed the name or something. Either of those will also work fine. And I'm going to mainly talk about Skype and Zoom today. But if you need to use one of the other ones, that's also totally fine, and they will also work for you. So these concerns with using Zoom. So Zoom, if you haven't heard, Zoom has been in the media a lot lately for all sorts of reasons, for privacy concerns, security issues, a thing called Zoom raiders, where people can sort of join in to a Zoom call that you might have set up with a group of people, and suddenly you've got someone in your call that you didn't even know and they weren't invited. All of these things have been happening and they've been in the media. Now, I'm going to say that most of the issues are old news already. So Zoom has fixed up a number of things to do with the privacy and security. You need to make sure that you have the latest version of the software. The other thing that I'll say, and this is probably the main thing, and this is why I don't think it's so much of a concern if you're mainly running one-on-one lessons, is that you have the control over your in-meeting settings. You are the one that controls things. And I'm going to suggest, maybe I'm kind of wincing here as I say this, I'm going to suggest that it's likely that the people who have had issues have not set their meeting up in the best way to ensure that they don't get gate crashes. There are multiple things you can do, and I'll talk through the options on the next slide about how you can get students into your Zoom call. And there are varying levels of security and privacy and control that you can have. So the reason that there have been gate crashes on Zoom calls is that a teacher has sent out an invitation for some people to join a Zoom call. Let's say I'm a music teacher and I teach year 8 students and I've got 26 kids in my class, and I say, here's the invitation, class, for our next get together. And the students get a link to the meeting and a meeting ID. The link actually has the meeting ID in it. Now, what the year 8 kids do, if they want to be a little bit of a troublemaker, they go and post that link. They copy the invitation and they post it on social media somewhere. If any of you know the website Reddit, Reddit is an online sort of forum style website where you can have discussions and talk to other people all around the world. They actually have a thread called Zoom Raiders, and kids from around the world are sharing their invitation links in that thread and inviting people that they do not know all around the world to come and bomb the Zoom session that their teacher's running the next day. So this is the issue that's been happening. Now, you don't need to set up your meeting in that way. You don't need to do it in that way. And so you can totally control all these settings. So I feel annoyed sometimes that the media blows this up and they only show that one side of it. Whereas, hang on, you can just set up your meeting in the correct way and then you won't have this issue. So I will talk about the invitation method options here and just run through what you can do. All right, checking in on the chat window. Yep, I'm just skim reading here. Yeah, just some discussion about what's happening at schools and stuff. Yep. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the question time too. So I'm going to talk about Skype in a second, but inviting students to a Zoom call, this is what I have decided are the 3 best options. You may have a better solution to this. There are lots of different ways. If you're using Zoom, there are lots of different ways that you can connect with your student. So let's just run through these briefly because I think it's useful to know what the options are. You can say to your student, can you please add me as a contact in your Zoom account? So the student or parent downloads Zoom, they set up their free account, and then inside Zoom, there's basically a contacts list. So it's like an address book. So you as a teacher can say, please add my email to your contacts. And once the student has done that, you are connected through Zoom. You're not talking to each other at this point. You're just connected as contacts through Zoom. And if you've used Skype, this is like adding someone to your Skype contacts list. And then at the lesson time, you as a teacher can click the button to call the student. Now, that makes a direct connection. Your lesson starts, and the student never has a link that they can share anywhere. And besides that, if you're running one-on-one lessons, it's going to be super easy for you to know if the link has been shared outside your lesson and you get people bombing the lesson. It's going to be pretty easy to work out who shared the link because you probably only have the one student on the call. So this is option 1. Connect with the student in your contacts and then call the student at the right time. You can have a password on that or not have a password on that. It doesn't really matter. And this is just a really super simple way of getting started. Now, option 2 is that inside Zoom, you open up Zoom, you click the schedule meeting button and you fill out the details. You say, I want this lesson to take place on Tuesday at 4:30 till 5 o'clock. And Zoom automatically generates a meeting link for you. And you can ask it to have a unique ID each time. And then you'll send the student the link. And again, you can add a password on if you want extra protection. Totally fine to do that. The student will receive the password and will need to enter that when they click the link to join. Now, option 3 is that you can do the same sort of thing. You can actually schedule one meeting for an entire day if you want. So you could just schedule a meeting, which is called Saturday Lessons. And for the entire day, all the different students that you will see on that day will actually use one and the same meeting link. And they will just simply click through at the right time. So if you've got student A that's at 10:30 and student B is coming in at 11 o'clock, student B will click the link at 11 to join the lesson. And it's just like in person if the second student is arriving at your door at the start of their lesson time. Now, you might be wondering, hang on a minute, if student A is still going in their lesson and student B clicks the link to join, are they going to see student A? Yes, they are, unless you decide to choose to use the waiting room feature. This is a feature in Zoom, and this is one of those bells and whistles that Zoom has that other platforms does not have. The waiting room feature will pop the second student just inside the call, but you can't see them and they can't see the first student. They're just sitting there and they're waiting to be admitted. And all you do is when you're ready for the first student to end and the second one to start, you'll just click the admit button and the second student comes in and then you can see and talk to them. So that's a really good way of having one meeting link for a whole day and controlling who sees who during the lesson time. So I hope that makes sense. There are many videos on YouTube walking you through all these features. I don't want to spend too long on it today because I really want to get through some other things as well. So I hope that makes sense. Now, inviting students to a Skype call. Now, I said to you that if you want something really simple, Skype is a good option. Really, you just get the student to add you as a contact in Skype, and then you just simply press the call button at the lesson time. That was the same as option 1 in the Zoom slide that I just showed you, but that's really all there is as an option in Skype. So if you want bells and whistles and you want to make things more fancy, Zoom is definitely a good option. But if you do want to keep things simple, Skype is just as simple as this. You basically have a contact and you call them at the lesson time. The student will just wait for you until you're ready. Great. I'm just scrolling through the last little bit of the chat window. You're doing well, helping each other out. Thank you, everyone. All right. Teaching online. So just some general things that you need to consider. This is where it feels weird when you start doing this, but you will get used to it very quickly. Now, I've put here the first thing to consider is that when you're teaching, it's going to be a my turn, your turn kind of workflow. You're going to say something or play something, and then you stop, and the student is then going to do that. And then you're going to play or talk, and then your student will play or talk after that. You cannot really, and not very successfully, talk over the top of each other. It's very difficult if you're simply commenting on a student's playing while they're actually playing. It's very difficult for the student to hear in this situation. It's quite different to being in the same room in that way. My son Josh is learning guitar, and his teacher yesterday, he just had his first lesson yesterday with his teacher Reese, and Reese described it as follow the leader. That's what he's calling it, follow the leader teaching. So it's this back and forth kind of thing. The really important thing is point number 2. You cannot count along with your students playing while they're playing in this online situation. You can't do it. If you start counting along with your student, for you, it will sound like it's in time, and for the student, it's going to be absolutely terrible and very detrimental to their playing. So you just can't do it. You need to keep quiet while they play, and then you'll stop and comment on their playing. Now, if you need them to keep time, or if you need them to have something to keep them in time, it's going to be best if they have a metronome at their end. You cannot put a metronome on at your end and then the student plays along with you. It just will not work. And it's because of that latency or lag that we talked about earlier. So really good if the student has a metronome at their end that they can play along with. And there are iPad apps, iPhone apps if they don't have an old school kind of metronome to use. The third thing is, and this is all related, is play along tracks. So you cannot, again, play live duets with your student. You can't say, I'll play the upper part while you play the lower part. If you're a piano teacher, you can't play the lower accompaniment in the lower register while the piano student plays the upper register part. It just will not work if you're both in separate houses connecting through the internet. So the way to get around that is ahead of time, you could send some kind of play along track to the student and they play it at their end and play along with it at their end, if that makes sense. If you want to record yourself playing one part of a duet, great, and then you send it to them and they can play it at their end. There is also a way during your lesson, if you're using Zoom, this is not an option in Skype, but if you're using Zoom, you can have an audio track on your laptop and you can click a button to share just the audio with the student and they will hear it and be able to play along with it. But again, you still can't play live duets with them or count along with what's happening there. So there's a few options there, but the main thing to remember is that it's back and forth, my turn, your turn type situation. Okay, we're going to I'm going to just talk through briefly student safety and privacy. Really, the best thing is to talk, if you have questions about this, is to approach the VMTA. They have some fantastic information about this and in much more detail. But generally speaking, you're going to need to get permission in writing from the parents to to engage in video calls with the student. You're going to need to have parents present, especially if they're under 6, and it may be advisable for even older students as well. It's a good idea if the student is doing their lesson in a family area and not in their bedroom with the door closed. And if they're in the bedroom, the door is open and a parent may be just outside the door doing something else. The parent may sit in on the lesson. You just want to cover yourselves. I think that's the main important thing. And it's a really good idea to record each lesson. It will just ensure, well, and it's for 2 reasons. The student can then obviously play it back later on and refer to it, but also it helps you with that privacy and safety concerns. It will be a record of what's gone on, and you and the student can both keep copies of that. Now, there is a built-in record option in Zoom, and there's also one in Skype. I didn't think there was, but I found yesterday that they've added that in now. So that's kind of cool. In Zoom, you have an option of making that recording function start automatically without you having to remember to press record. You need to turn that on in settings. So you can do that in Zoom if you want to. Or you can just have a little checklist at the beginning of each lesson saying, don't forget to press record. This is what I do in a lot of my online live webinars. I have a pre-flight checklist, as I call it, and I work through that before each session. So press record. In Skype, I believe you do need to remember to press record. I don't think that there's an automatic function to have it start straight away. I might be wrong about that, but it is definitely there. All right, let's talk about optimizing your sound. So commonly I see people complaining about the sound quality in different software programs, particularly in Zoom. Zoom actually, the reason that so many people are using it, particularly musicians, is that it does have the most flexibility and features to do with your sound settings, amongst other things, but that is one of the reasons that a lot of music teachers are using it right now. It may or may not be an option for you, and as I said before, you may need to go with whatever the school's recommending if you are working at a school. But there are options for optimizing the sound, and you really do need to look into this with whatever program you're using. The thing that I want to say up front is that all of these software programs, they are not designed for teaching music. That was not their intent when the software developers made them. They were made for corporate regular meetings like board meetings, people talking about software development, whatever it is. It's designed for people talking to one another. It is not designed in its first instance for running a music lesson. Having said that, it doesn't work that badly, but you do need to optimize the settings to make it work better for music teaching. So most software programs try to suppress background noise. And this is an awesome feature if you're in a corporate meeting and you've got Mary who's taking notes, on one side of the call. And then there's, 3 other people who were talking. Mary might be typing away madly on her computer laptop, taking the notes for the session. And the software will actually try to eliminate her typing sound because it's really distracting for everyone else. And that's a really good thing if you're in that sort of meeting situation. It will allow her to talk because the software recognizes her voice and will not suppress her voice, but it will try to suppress the background noise of the click-clack of the typing. So this is awesome if you're in that situation where you're wanting typing noises to be cut out. It's not so good in a music lesson if the quiet notes from your cello student are being eliminated by the software because the software thinks they're background noise, this is where things go wrong. So your software will try to suppress that, and it will automatically adjust the volume of the microphone, sort of the input levels of the microphone. Now, this is true of most of these software programs, and you just need to kind of look for where or if you can change these settings. I want to talk through 4 important Zoom settings. So if you are using Zoom, I'm not going to go through every single setting that you could possibly turn on or off in Zoom. I'm going to highlight these 4 audio related settings, and then later on I'm going to tell you where you can get more information. So these are the 4 that I've identified. I've watched many videos and experimented myself. So the first thing is to go into your audio settings. So you go into your setting, and it's not hard to find your settings if you've never done this before. And just a reminder, you will get a copy of these slides. So don't worry too much. You'll get a picture of where to find all these things. You go in and you're going to turn off the option which says automatically adjust microphone volume. You want to keep things constant in your music lesson, so turn that one off. The second one is to do with that background noise. So you can go into your advanced audio settings, and there are 2 options to do with background noise, and you're going to change them so that they say disable. I think by default they're on auto, so the software is deciding for you what it wants to do. We're going to disable those. Now, the next one is in that same advanced audio settings area, you're going to turn on the option to show enable original sound from microphone. Now, you need to turn this on, and then when you're in a meeting, I'll show you in the next screen, there's a button that you'll click while you're actually teaching your lesson to turn on the original sound. That means that the software is going to play the original sound that's being picked up from the microphone instead of a processed or changed version of the sound. So you want the original sound, you want to hear the instrument in its original form. So you turn that on first, and then it then gives you this button when you're in the Zoom screen. This is me in Zoom with my Dandenongs background that I uploaded. You can see at the top left corner there's a little button to do with turning on or off original sound. So you want to turn it on. The button's slightly confusing because the terminology, when it's already on, it then says turn off original sound, and you will click it to turn it off. Anyway, it's a little bit confusing the way it's worded. Read the button and you should be right. So that's the 4 settings. Now, I'm actually putting together, I really wanted this done by today, but it did not happen due to many reasons. I'm actually going to put together a Zoom guide for music teachers, which is going to have these settings plus a whole heap of other things that I think are worthwhile considering when you're using Zoom as a music teacher. So that will be coming out soon. I will try to remember to let Genevieve know when that's ready, and she can send you a link to it. It may be next week if all things go well. Just before I leave talking about Zoom, and I'm not going to spend too long on this because I need to get to other things in this session, but it's really worth looking at, for instance, gallery view in Zoom versus speaker view. So when you first open up Zoom, if you've got more than one person in the call, 2 or 3 or 4, you can choose to have speaker view, which just highlights the one person who's speaking or playing at a time. Or you can turn on gallery view and it will actually show both people at once or 4 people at once or however many you've got in the call. I much prefer gallery view. It gives you that Brady Bunch style screen because you can just see everything all the time. I find it much easier to use. Other things that you can do in Zoom which are worth exploring are sharing your screen. There is a button at the bottom of the Zoom screen which says share screen. You click that and you choose what you want to show that's on your computer, show to your students. So this could be sheet music. This is really good if you want to go through some parts of a score with your students. You can actually share your screen, show the sheet music and discuss it, and they can see a really clear copy of it with you. You can also share computer audio only. This is what I mentioned earlier. If you wanted to have your student play with some kind of backing track, you can open the audio file on your computer. You click the share screen button And then instead of sharing the whole screen, the visual part, you actually say, I just want to share the computer audio. And you press play on the file, and that audio will come through to the student at the other end at a good quality, not sounding tinny like it's going through your laptop speakers, but it will sound at a good quality coming out their end. Zoom also has the option to easily switch cameras. So if you have more than one camera plugged in, let's say you've got a laptop like I do and it has an inbuilt camera. When I'm in Zoom, if I go to my video options, it says that I'm using the Mac inbuilt camera. It identifies that there's a camera there. If I happen to get a separate webcam and I also plugged that into the USB port in my laptop, Zoom suddenly knows when I'm in Zoom, if I go back to that video options menu, it knows that I've got, hey, there's a Mac inbuilt camera. Oh, and there's also a Logitech whatever camera plugged in as well. And I can actually choose to switch between the two. So if I have two cameras, one of them might be pointing at my face, the other one might be pointing at the keys of my piano. And I can actually choose in Zoom during the call, when you're talking to your student, you can actually just go in there and say, I now want to show the student my face, and now I want to show the student my piano keyboard. You can switch back and forth this way. All right, I'm going to briefly talk about Skype. There's not so much to talk about. Basically, in Skype, there's one thing that you can adjust in terms of the sound settings, microphone settings, and you go into, again, your audio and video settings, and there's an option to automatically adjust microphone settings. This is similar to the Zoom one, and you'll just turn that off. I find that that's the best option to keep things kind of even and good. Great. Okay. I really want to get onto this part. So physical setup. Now, I've got lots of photos to show you. I was lucky enough to have some sent through to me. So thank you if you were one of the teachers who did that. I've also picked up some other examples online in different places. I really want to talk about physical setup because I think it really helps to see visually how things are going to work. I know if you've never tried this before, you're probably just, like for me personally, when things like this are totally new, it stresses me out because I can't picture it. So that's the thing that causes the most stress for me personally. As soon as I can picture it or see it working in my own house, then I feel a lot better about things. So I'm hoping that these pictures will help you too. Let's just first of all talk about physical setup of your room and so on. Now, the thing that is going to make your online lessons successful, the top thing is your proximity to your router. The thing that goes wrong the most is internet connection issues, bandwidth, whatever it is. You really need to make sure, if you can, and I know it depends on what instrument you're playing. If you have a grand piano, you're not going to have many options for where you can put the grand piano in your house. But if you can be as close as possible to the router, you're going to get the best result. So either in the same room or with as few walls between you and the router as possible. One wall is good. 5 walls, like 5 rooms away is not going to be a great thing. There may be some things you can do setup-wise to get your router closer to your instrument if you can't move your instrument. You also want to choose a quiet space. That probably goes without saying, but I think you don't notice background noise until you're on one of these calls and suddenly you can hear everything. You really notice everything. Lighting is also really important, as I mentioned earlier. And if you've got windows in the room, you really want them to be not behind you. You don't want the window behind you. And this is the same for the student when you're teaching them. It's so glary, you'll have a migraine by the end of the day. So don't have the strong lighting behind you. You want nice ambient lighting if possible. And when you are going online, just take a look at yourself in the camera. Make sure that you're happy with what's in the background. If the washing's out, the kids are going to see it, your students are going to see it, or whatever is in the back of your room there. Let's talk really simple setups, and I'm going to go through some pictures here. Let me just do a quick check on the chat window. You're all having a back channel. That's great. Okay, great. I'm leaving you to it. Super simple setup. If you've never done this before and you're totally freaking out, just go with your computer and the inbuilt microphone or webcam or whatever it is. This guy actually does have an extra webcam on the top of his computer, but he's got a guitar. He's got his Mac set up there. He does have one webcam plugged in. That's the only extra thing there. And he's simply playing. There's no fancy microphone. There's no fancy mic stand set up. There's no audio interface. There's no like hundreds of leads. There's not lots of lighting, there's no lighting tree or anything in there. It's just a simple setup. Go with that. Now, I've included some screenshots from YouTube videos because I just wanted to illustrate some different types of setups to you today. I've deliberately left in the title at the bottom of the picture of the YouTube video in case you want to go and watch the whole thing. Second, really simple setup. This is a piano teaching setup. Now, I know if you're a piano teacher, you've probably seen all those people on YouTube that have 2 or 3 cameras. They've got stands for an overhead camera. I will show you that setup in a second, but there's tripods and lights and microphones, and it just looks terrifyingly complex. It does not need to be. You can start with your laptop on a stand next to you playing the keyboard. And you just need to angle the laptop correctly so that the student can preferably see your hands and nearly all of, if possible, the keyboard itself. So the laptop, generally speaking, is going to need to be quite high up and angled forward a little bit. So if you're just using that laptop camera inbuilt, you want to angle the lid down forward a little bit. So this person has a tilted stand that's just on the desktop usually. They've given it extra height with books and it's on a table. Not a difficult, complex setup. Just start with that. All good. This next one, saxophone teacher, he's using one of those flimsy stands which blows over when you do outdoor concerts. He's got his iPad there. The screen is showing through the back of the stand because it's an open stand. And the camera's at the top there looking at him, looking at his hands, his fingers, and just a really simple setup. Now, I couldn't possibly get pictures of every single instrument that I could think of. I tried to get as many different ones as possible. And obviously, if you're a sax teacher, the setup is going to be similar for clarinet, most of the smaller woodwind instruments as an example, even for violin and so on. And then there are some different instruments like the next slide, which shows a cello setup. And this photo is courtesy of Genevieve. So thank you for sending those through. It's super useful getting all those photos. Genevieve's got a more advanced setup. So if this is not you at this stage, do not worry about this. If you want to level up, this is a great way to do it. So Genevieve has her laptop in front of her on a stand. You can see the laptop is raised up high so that it can be seen. She has a microphone on a mic stand, and that's pointing towards the cello, but also picks up her voice. So the microphone picks up the room sound. At the bottom of the screen on the right here, this is her same setup from the other side of the desk. And you can see that the microphone actually plugs into this audio interface, which is on the desk. If you are kind of freaking out right now, switch off. Don't listen. Don't worry about it. You don't need to do all of this. But if you get to the point where you want to level up, this is a great way to do it. So there's an audio interface there. The microphone is plugged into that. And then lastly, she has got a nicer webcam, which is sitting on the top of her laptop there. So that's her option. I'm going to sort of run through these fairly quickly. I do want to show you a variety of setups here. Now, this is a digital piano setup. Thank you, George, for sending this photo through. And again, this is a little bit more complex than the original simple laptop setup. But George has got a microphone. There's a webcam, there's a mixer, and the mixer, and I've made some assumptions about these setups because I didn't talk to these people, but the digital piano, I'm guessing, and the webcam and the headphones are all plugged into that little mixer that you can see in the photo there. Now, the benefit of that is that when you plug the mixer into your computer and you open up, say, Zoom, if you're using Zoom, basically, instead of saying to Zoom, I want to use my inbuilt microphone to talk into as my audio input, you just choose the mixer that's in the menu. As soon as you plug stuff into Zoom or into your laptop and then open Zoom, Zoom knows what's plugged into your laptop and it goes, oh, I can see that there's your inbuilt thing and there's a mixer plugged in. Which one do you want to use? And you choose the mixer. Or audio interface. In Genevieve's setup, it would be the name of the audio interface would be in that menu. Now, if you plug your headphones into that mixer or into your audio interface, you would also choose the mixer or audio interface as your output as well. So rather than the sound coming out of your laptop speakers, if you've got headphones plugged into that mixer, you'll choose that as your output. This just means everything's kind of running through one system. Again, if this is beyond you, don't do it. Just start really simple. Okay, another piano setup I just want to show you here. This is one with an overhead camera option. Thank you, Yanni Lamb, for sending these photos through. I've got a couple. The next 3 photos are all from the same setup, just different angles. So the laptop on the right-hand side there is looking down the piano keys. Now, again, you could just have that. That could be just the only option if you wanted to. So I've called that camera 1. And then the second option here is the tripod sitting on top of the piano, and that's where you can have another camera attached. I'm going to guess from the looks of the attachment on the tripod that Yanni probably uses a smartphone or very small tablet device on there. It doesn't have to be, though. It could be a DSLR camera. And then it just means that both of those things are plugged into the laptop, or the camera itself is plugged into the laptop. And again, Zoom will know you've got an external camera plugged in and you can switch from one to the other. There are headphones being used there as well. So the view from the second camera on the tripod looks like this, and it's that top-down view of the keys. If you're a piano teacher, this is a great thing to do, but it's not compulsory. You don't need to do this. It's an added bonus extra for your students. Now, if you want to see what the student is looking at from camera 1, so this is their view from camera 2, looking down. Their view from camera 1 would be this one. So this is Yanni looking into the laptop that's on the screen there. So this is what the student would see. And you can see all the keys on the keyboard there. And this other piano setup here, and I know I've got a few piano ones. Really, I'm going to say piano teachers have the more complex option for setting up for online lessons. But this teacher here posted this. I asked her if I could use her photo. I posted this in a Facebook group the other day. She started off with only her laptop. She did not have all the other things that you can see here at first. What she found was that I think she actually had the laptop off to one side, and what she found was that her neck and shoulders were getting really sore because she was having to look over her shoulder all the time. So she ended up setting up the overhead camera, and she's found that much better for her ergonomically now that she's got both options to choose from. And she's just simply got earbud headphones plugged into her laptop, nothing fancy there. It's not going through some mixing desk or anything like that. It's just plugged straight into her laptop. All right, electric instruments like electric guitar, bass guitar. I'm just going to talk through this for you guys. You guys have a little bit of a harder option as well if you want to kind of get like the best sound quality. And again, you don't have to do this. I'll run through this briefly for you. I did find this video, and so I've taken some shots from the video, and you can watch the whole thing if you just look up the name of that video on YouTube. If you're feeling overwhelmed by setup options at this point, just switch off for a minute and come back to me shortly. Just briefly, if you are wanting sort of a good quality setup for your electric guitar, bass guitar, this is one way to do it. So you can set up your guitar amp, you can put a microphone in front of the amp, and this is kind of like the way you would set up for a live gig on stage, to be honest. So I know you guys are not going to this is going to be fairly normal for you. Setting up your vocal mic separately to that. You connect both of those things at the top left to your audio interface. Now, an audio interface, for those that may not know, is just a box that allows you to plug things like microphones into your laptop. You can't plug a regular mic like a Shure SM58 microphone, which has an XLR cable, like a regular mic cable. There's nowhere to plug that straight into your laptop. You need an audio interface to act as the go-between. So the amp and the mic are plugged into that audio interface, and then also the headphones too. Now, I've written down here what the setup is. So audio interface has the vocal mic, the amp, microphone, and the headphones plugged in. You'll open up Zoom or Skype and you'll select that audio interface as the input. And then also in Zoom or Skype, you'll select the audio interface as the output too, because that's where the headphones are. And that gives your student a really nice sound setup at the end. Drum kits. Again, another difficult one to set up. Look, again, you can start simple. Drum kits are harder. I'm going to say it's harder. And it's mainly because of the sound levels. Laptop at one side is all good. Start with that. Overhead camera, again, is an added optional thing and is awesome if you can do that. Now, I watched this video yesterday on the next screen. I had one of those moments where this guy said something in this video where I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I never thought of that myself. I want to just go back to this for a minute. So normally, if you have two cameras set up, in Zoom or Skype, you need to switch between one and the other. So you'll say, I want to show student camera 1 now. Then you go back into video settings and you say, I want to show camera 2. And camera 1, camera 2, and you switch back and forth between cameras. Now, this dude in this video, and I'm not kidding, I was watching YouTube, I was looking something up on YouTube. This came up in my related items. I clicked through. The guy had published it 10 minutes before I watched it, only 10 minutes before. Now, his suggestion, and if this is beyond you, don't worry too much, but for those that are interested, his suggestion was that you actually log in twice to your own lesson on 2 different accounts. So if you were using Zoom, for instance, you log in on your laptop and you log in with one account on your laptop, and then you log in with a second Zoom account from a different device, and you use both of those devices as your 2 separate cameras. And both of those people are in the call. I know the person is you, one and the same person. And if this makes sense to you, this is a great, easy thing to do. So this means that rather than switching from camera A to camera B to camera A and only being able to have one show at a time, this allows you to have both showing simultaneously. And this is how he does it. So he has his laptop looking at the view over his left shoulder. And then he has his iPad hooked up above the drum kit and he logs that in on a second account in order to show the student 2 things simultaneously. Is anyone else had their mind blown by that? Yeah, and that's the thing. A couple of comments. Yeah, so a couple of comments about does that affect the bandwidth and so on? Yeah, so 2 questions have come up there. With the sound, you can just mute one of them. So that's not an issue. My question, I actually asked him under the YouTube video, and I don't know if he's replied. I forgot to check this morning. I actually asked him, is there a lag or latency between the 2 versions of himself? So this is not going to be for everybody. And if you have a poor internet connection, you don't have good bandwidth at your house, do not try this. It's maybe not going to be the best result. But if you do have decent internet, this could totally be an option for you. I just think it's worth exploring. So it may not be the right solution for you, but definitely explore it. I just couldn't believe I had never thought of it myself before. It just seemed like such a simple solution. All right, I'm going to keep going. I know we're over an hour. I did know coming into this session that I would take more than an hour. I'm just going to say to you, if you do need to go off and teach an online lesson and I'm not finished with the webinar, don't worry. It's being recorded. You can come and catch up with it later on. If you're happy to stick around, awesome. I'm going to keep going. I do have some more to get through. I'm going to keep going because I just think it's useful. I didn't want to miss out anything crucial. So leveling up options, microphone. That is the first thing I would start with. I am not going to give you 7 million options for microphones. I've picked just a few and put them on the screen here. Please go and ask your friends for opinions. I've picked 4 of the popular options here. They are not the only options. And lots of people have very strong opinions about these sorts of things and may not agree with the ones that I've picked. But here are some. So In terms of brands, Blue, the brand Blue makes the one at the top left and the one at the bottom right. So the top left is the Blue Yeti and the bottom right is the Blue Snowball microphone. They are both USB mics. They're super easy. You plug them in and you just use them, and they're easy to use, and they just go into a USB port in your laptop. You don't need an audio interface or anything else. The one at the top right is a Rode. No, it's not. It's an Audio Technica microphone. I'm sorry. And the one at the bottom left is a Rode shotgun mic. Now, I've included this because some people like a shotgun mic to pick up room sound, room ambience, rather than having to mic their instrument up close and their voice up close and so on. Those are 4 options. Go and explore some other ones. Happy to talk more about at the Q&A at the end. In terms of leveling up on your webcam, to be honest, the only brand most of the time that I see suggested is Logitech. So I'm suggesting Logitech to you today. And the most popular models seem to be the C920 and the C922. So if you want to level up with your webcam, go and check that one out. In terms of audio interface, again, there are many, many options. I've put this one single one on the screen. It seems to be one of the most popular options. I actually have one myself sitting on the desk next to me here. It's a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. It has 2 inputs. They have bigger models which allow you to plug more things in at once. But if you just needed to plug in, for instance, one microphone and one instrument, you could do that with this one. Let's just talk briefly about the student. So things that are going to affect your lesson also come from the student end as well. The considerations for the student is that you need to kind of get them to try and do as best as possible the same sorts of things that you're doing to ensure that the lesson is going to run well. They want to be in a quiet room. You want to get them to have decent access to their internet Wi-Fi connection. You don't want there to be a lot of background noise. So they may need to tell family members, you got to be quiet for half an hour while I have my lesson. You need to also talk them through or get a parent to help them with positioning of the device so that the camera picks up their instrument, their hands. I was going to say if it involves hands. I'm pretty sure everyone's instrument involves their hands, and also their face. And their face for many reasons. Wind, obviously, if it's an embouchure thing, you need to look at. But it's also really important for that connection during the lesson to be able to see each other's faces too. Now, common issues that happen during lessons can be that the student has trouble hearing the teacher, and that may be because the device that they're using is far away from them where they're playing, and it's hard for them to hear through, the sound coming out of the speakers. Headphones might help that, or a speaker plugged into the laptop or desktop computer that they're using or device that they're using. The teacher, in the same way, may have trouble hearing the student. And again, it might be because the device is too far away and the microphone's not picking them up easily. So let me just show you some photos of student setups. Again, thank you to the teachers that sent these through, many from Genevieve and other teachers. And thank you to the parents for giving permission for these to be used. So this student's using Zoom on an iMac. The monitor is raised up so that they can be seen, the screen can be seen over the top of the music stand. So the student will just need to set up and practice this setup before the lesson, ideally. Student 2 here has just a laptop sitting on the desk next to them, and they've got the music stand there, and you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there is the Blue Snowball microphone. So that's picking up the sound of the trombone and the student's voice as well. And this setup here, this student's using an iPad with Zoom. The iPad limitations with Zoom on an iPad is that you can't access some of those advanced audio settings that you can access on a laptop. So that can be problematic. This means that in this situation, Genevieve commented that, for instance, repeated notes played by the student are interpreted by Zoom as background noise, and therefore they're compressed. And so it sounds like the student's kind of fading in and out often. So again, this is one of the reasons why it is slightly better to use a laptop or desktop computer if possible. Not the end of the world, but good if possible. This student here, there's just a simple smartphone, by the looks of it, smartphone on a tripod next to the student so that the visual is picked up and also their voice would be picked up when they need to talk. This one here, clarinet player, has their laptop to one side. This was from a musiclessonsanywhere.net website. And the next one is my own son, Josh, and he's got his laptop in front of him, just sitting on the bed, and he's got his guitar lesson set that way. Now, when he first tried his setup, he had his back to the window, and I said, that's not going to be good. It's just too much glare in the camera. So I got him to turn around, and he had his first lesson yesterday in that sort of setup. Amy, your daughter was on. Sorry, I just glanced over at the chat window. Great. All right, a few tips for success. My biggest tip is to just have a go. I know it can be daunting, but until, like I said earlier, even for me, if I've never done something before, the thing that I'm worried about, it's going to be scary until I actually do it. Once I do it, I'm like, oh, okay, it's really not that bad. My top recommendation is to practice with a friend, or it could be a family member. In the past few days, my son Josh has tested Zoom and Skype things with me, settings, layouts, formats, audio settings, video settings, all sorts of things. We've done it probably about 8 times in the past few days because I wanted to see how things worked. I also went and switched places with him. This is good when you do it with someone in your own house. He logged in as a student to my session. I actually went over to his laptop so that I could see what he sees as a student. It's really good to just have a practice with a friend. Choose someone, have a laugh, glass of wine together, and just both test out playing your instrument. Can they see you? Can they see your face? Can they see your hands? Can they see the keys of your instrument? Whatever it is you're playing, is the sound quality okay? It's really good if you can set up in a place where you can leave everything set up. It may not be possible, but ideally that would be a great option. And each day, I've just put there, check and test setup each day. This doesn't have to be a long test. It takes me about 2 minutes to do this. I just plug things in and I check everything quickly. The more you've done this, the quicker that check of setup will be. But do just check that things are right. Is the video working? Is your audio working? And so on. And if you can, it's really good to try to see what it looks like on different devices. So if you personally have a laptop and an iPad, log in on an iPad and just see what it looks like, because it is different. It's different. It's good to know what it looks like for the student, because then when you get questions from them, which you will get, you'll know how to answer them, or vaguely how to answer them. Okay, making it better. I did say that one of the biggest things is the internet speed, quality, connection. And if possible, if you're close enough to your router, your setup is close enough to your router, you can plug in an Ethernet cable, that's the internet cable, from your router directly into your laptop. That will give you the best result. Doesn't have to happen, but it will give you a better result. Kick your family while you're teaching off Netflix and PlayStation. No kidding. So my own boys who are here with me at the moment, every time I run a live webinar, they know they're not to be streaming Netflix or any of the other streaming services we subscribe to. They're also not able to play PlayStation games until I'm done. And once I'm done, they're back on again. While I'm on, if they want to get online, they use their data on their mobile phone and everyone's happy. As soon as everybody in the house is streaming something, it's going to really affect how your lesson runs. One little tip that I've learned over the years is to try to remember to turn off updates and syncing of files. So if you use Dropbox, for instance, Dropbox synchronizes any new files in your Dropbox account periodically. And sometimes your computer updates randomly, especially if you're on a PC. Suddenly you'll just say, hey, I'm just going to update. I'm shutting down everything. You really don't want that happening in a lesson. So you need to change your settings so that doesn't happen unless you're in control of it. Notifications off on all your devices while you're running a lesson. It probably goes without saying, but it's easy to forget. And don't forget to plug your laptop or whatever device you're running your session from into the charger. Even if it's fully charged, keep it plugged in the whole time. I have been in the situation where suddenly halfway through a live webinar, I didn't realize my laptop was not plugged in. And suddenly I get that notification that you're down to 5% of your battery and I'm going to shut down shortly. And it's, oh my gosh, freak out. So plug everything in and keep it plugged in. Okay, things to tell the students. Before the first lesson, just get them to download whatever it is that you're going to use, Skype, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts, whatever it is. And if they need to set up an account, get them to set it up ahead of time. It may need to be the parents that are doing that part, of course, if they're young students. Also get them to try their setup ahead of the lesson. Just see if they can sit in front of where they're going to have their laptop, angle the screen properly. Look, it's not the end of the world. I would be prepared that your first lesson is going to be fiddling with setup a little bit with each student, but if they can do that ahead, that would be really great. And just let them know they're going to need to have things on hand. So you're not there to write with your pencil on their music. They're going to have their own pencil handy. So having their music handy, their pencil, a metronome maybe, note paper and so on is important. Okay, a few troubleshooting issues that may crop up. It's really hard to predict what issues people might have. The main issues are to do with audio and video, of course, and things that you can say. If the student says, I can see you, but I can't hear you, then you need to ask them to make sure that their audio is turned on, or their microphone essentially is turned on in the software, or their video is turned on. It sounds obvious, but it's surprising how many times you just can fix it with that. Make sure the correct camera or mic is selected in the software that you're using. And I've put this one in. Make sure there's not another app already running that's using the mic or the camera. Actually, when my son logged onto his first guitar lesson yesterday, I had to come in and troubleshoot. And, his guitar teacher and I were laughing about the fact that of all people having tech issues, it was me and my son, because we're both very techy. And it turned out that Josh had another camera running on his laptop. He'd just used it to check his setup, so it was a good thing to do. But the camera that he had running, the separate app, was not allowing Skype to use his camera. So it was just, the Skype just was showing a black screen, nothing. So as soon as we quit out of that other app, it was fine, then we could use it. And most of the issues do come from internet bandwidth, other people using internet in the household and so on. So that's some of the things I can suggest to you. Just checking in on the chat window really briefly. I have a few more things to discuss and then I'll open up to questions. So I know some of you have questions and have been helping each other out. Neil's talking about uploading photos of gear and connections. Yeah, that would be really wicked. I'd love to see other people's setups. I'll talk about that in the Q&A time. And Lauren, yes, I'll just answer yours quickly, that I've seen. You asked about, should the student have the same Zoom settings as the teacher? Yes. Yes, I would definitely suggest that. It works both ways, so yes, they should. I just want to point out that some students are going to have some issues with attending online lessons just generally. Some students may not have their own device, which means that they're using a device that's shared with other family members, or they may have no devices in the house other than a parent or carer smartphone. And they may not also always be able to use that device at the time of your lesson. So this is where flexibility comes in. You may need to work on with the parents about a time which is going to work for the student for device access. There may be little or no internet. That's a really hard one. And I'm going to talk about just briefly about some other options in that instance. Young students will also need an adult present, and if your scheduled lesson time is when the parent actually needs to be at work, that's obviously not going to be an ideal solution. So again, you need to sort of be flexible with that. So some possible solutions for these things, considering asynchronous options is a good idea. So asynchronous being teaching things that you can do where the student and you don't need to be online at the same time together. So that might involve you recording some teaching videos ahead of time to send through. And you can probably double up your videos. Like if you've got 5 beginner students, the same set of videos of you showing some warm-ups or rhythms or drills or pieces may work for all 5 of those beginner students. So it's not like you need to do personalized videos for every single student. Just some basic things would be great. The student can also, if you can't connect and play sort of back and forth live together, the student might be able to send you a video if they're playing when they can, and then you get online to just talk through the piece with them. This will clearly work better with older students, that you then as a teacher can go through, hey, this is great. I think you need to work on this section. The rhythm at this part was not quite right, and this is how it goes. You can do that sort of asynchronous style of teaching and learning. You as a teacher, if you can't get online to discuss feedback with them, you could actually record your feedback. You can record a quick video for them saying, hey, thanks for your piece. This is the feedback I have for you. And then the last thing to consider is there's still a lot you can do to further the students' musical growth and education, which does not always involve the traditional lesson, playing and performing. Get them to work on ear training or theory or note reading or rhythm or improvisation, all of those things. I know you all know that anyway, but it's just worth saying that maybe this is a time where they can focus more on that just while we're in this situation. I'm going to just briefly touch on making teaching videos. I'm actually going to talk more about this in another webinar next week, but I'm going to just say to you, and I'll answer more questions about this at the end if you want, the best quick options for making videos are Screencastify and Loom. The first two there, Screencastify and Loom, they are both Chrome extensions. You hit a record button and you teach, and you instantly at the end of recording get a link that you can send your students. The students do not need to download Screencastify or Loom to view the video. Super easy to use. I've also popped Flipgrid as an option in there. Flipgrid is more of a place where you set up a topic, you record a video or set an assignment of some kind, and then students can send you back videos really easily. There's a green button that they click on, they record their video, and instantly their video ends up in your Flipgrid topic. They don't need to export their video, download it, upload it somewhere, send it to you, none of that. Flipgrid takes care of all of that fiddly stuff. Perfect for playing assessments. If you want to get more complex, and I won't talk about this today, if you want to get more complex, WeVideo, iMovie, ScreenFlow, Final Cut Pro, many options out there. And I'm just going to say, if you are looking at making teaching videos, using a laptop, I find, is really the best option. You can do this stuff on your smartphone and your iPad, but to be honest, just use your laptop. You're going to have a lot few. You'll cry less. Like, just the laptop's just much easier, much more straightforward. I find anyway. That's my thing. And yeah, those quick options, Screencastify, Loom, and Flipgrid, all of them are free. They're all free. Flipgrid is totally and utterly free. Screencastify and Loom usually have a free account with a few limitations, but at the moment, they've all been opened up totally for free, all of their premium features. So go for it. Just go for it. Really good. All right. I'm actually going to skip through this. I feel like I need to keep track of time and get onto our question and answer time. But types of videos, just briefly, this is what they look like. So face to camera. You can do all of these with Loom and Screencastify. You love the Kaboom percussion people. They're great, aren't they? Screen sharing like this is an option. So in Screencastify and Loom, you can put something on the screen. You can have your little picture in the corner while you explain something. And then a more advanced option, not Screencastify or Loom for this, but a more advanced option would be to have something like notation on the screen too. All right, so final thoughts. What's next? What's next is for you to go and give it a go. Just bear in mind that done is better than perfect. It does not need to be perfect the first time. Have a go and people are forgiving. They really are. It's not as scary as you think. And do keep it simple. If you're overwhelmed right now with like all the options, take it back to just use your laptop and your webcam and your inbuilt microphone and start there. If you want more help, a couple of useful Facebook groups at the moment that I'm a member of are the Music Educators Creating Online Learning Group and the E-Learning in Music Education. They have both been set up in the past, I want to say 4 weeks or so. Lots of great ideas and things being shared, all music educators in this situation. I have my own Facebook page. I have an online community, which you are welcome to join. I have a very reduced price for that at the moment if you would like one-on-one help from me and access to lots of courses. And join the VMTA if you're not already a member, because they have some great resources. And if you're from interstate, your local MTA would be great. So most important things, keep the students making music. Just get through this period. This is not forever. I think a lot of people are kind of treating this like the world is ending and this is it forever. It's not forever. I'm going to just say that confidently, hoping that it's not forever. Just try your best. And the really important things are that, connection and keeping music going. And you really want to make sure you look after yourself. It's very easy to get bogged down in lots of tech and all that sort of stuff, but keep it simple. Okay, I mentioned before more help. I will put a link to my own community if you do want more information about that on the replay page once that's set up, and also to the VMTA. And I have more links that I'll share with you that Genevieve sent me. There's some great support for teachers in this time there. And of course, they have a teacher directory. So before I open up for questions, I just want to say thank you for coming and sitting through this. I did know that we would probably go for around 90 minutes, so I'm sorry. I did want to kind of keep it to 60, but I just had too much I wanted to get through. The webinar replay link will be sent within around 24 hours. If you can hold off emailing us to ask where it is before then, that would be really appreciated. My email inbox and Facebook notifications are like a whitewater river at the moment. What's the word? Very fast flowing river. Difficult to keep up with everything. We will get it out within 24 hours or so. And having said that, it's Friday, so just forgive us if it's not until Monday. My poor team also need to have a little bit of a weekend. There will be on that page a copy of the slides, the video itself, access to the PD certificate form that you can fill out, and then some other useful links as well. All right, phew. I'm going to open up to a question and answer. I'm going to just switch back to not my slides so you can see me. Which button am I pressing? There we go. Oh, wow. We've got like 368 people watching live. That's so cool. And I'm sorry if you haven't managed to log into the chat window. There's an awful lot of people in there for, it's gone to 304. All right. Let me just open up the chat window so that I can see it large. And I'm going to say now that I'm not going to be able to scroll back through like a 90 minutes worth of questions. So if you can type in any question, thank you for the thank yous as well. Thank you so much. Look, you're all doing really well, really, all doing really well. I'll just see if I can, I'm going to start sort of near the bottom of the comments here. Peter's asked a question about receiving payment. I'm not going to cover that today, Peter. So definitely ask Genevieve and the team at the VMTA about that. That's beyond really the scope of this one. I really want to concentrate more on the tech side because that's my forte. So so talk about that with them. They've got some great solutions for you there. Yeah, and Corinne just mentioned parents are not coping well with the change either. No, that's right. It's super hard. I mean, there's a hilarious video floating around of a woman in like, I want to say she's like in Spain. I think she's speaking in Spanish at least. And she's just going off about having to parent her kids, but also be the homeschooling person and all the other things. It's very funny. And yeah, it's super hard. And this is another reason for keeping things simple is that you need to think about the situation the kids are in. They may be one of 4 siblings and the poor parents are trying to cope with this for all of them. It can be difficult. So keeping things simple is a great thing. Yep. So Andrew's commented about making a large video on iPad or iPhone, and you can make it email size using Handbrake. And yes, you can totally do that. I use Handbrake quite a lot. And to be honest, Andrew, if you use Screencastify or Loom, you bypass all of those issues. Screencastify and Loom, you hit record, you make your video, and it's already online by the time you've finished. You don't need to compress it. You don't need to export it. You don't need to do anything. And you get a link straight away that you can send your students. So I record on those platforms. I use Loom every single day, about probably 5 to 10 times a day. I actually use it to simply reply to people with questions. I do this, I hit record and it looks like this. I talk to my screen because it's so much quicker than me typing the answer out in an email or in my community. I'll actually hit record, talk it through. As soon as I finish recording, so when I do that, I just turn on the screen option. So it's capturing through my webcam and not the screen option. It's capturing through my webcam and it's not recording my screen. And it looks just like this. It looks like me talking to the camera. So what I do is I say my answer, I press stop on the video. As soon as I've done that, it opens up the window where I have a link, and then I paste the link in to the email or to my community, and instantly the person has the answer. I can't tell you enough how much hassle it bypasses using those options. If you're just making simple videos, just use Loom or Screencastify. And this is particularly if you're new to making videos yourself. Loom and Screencastify will just use your webcam or your if you've got an external webcam, hooked up, you can choose to use that one if you want a better looking video as well. All right, I'm going back through a little bit. Yep. Great. Just scrolling through. Sally's asking about best microphones for tuba. I can't speak specifically to tuba because I haven't tried it out myself, but I would say that you want a mic that's going to pick up sound in your room generally. So that one that Genevieve have, for instance, that would be the sort that you want. It's a microphone that picks up sound all around. It's not this is a dynamic microphone, which means it's just picking my voice up in front here, and it will not pick up a lot of anything else around the room. That's not the sort you want. You want the sort with the polar pattern where it picks up all around, omnidirectional, cardioid. And you're going to just make sure that the placement is good for the tuba. So I'm going to guess it's not too hard to have a little experiment with that. You don't need to be... It's not like a situation when you're doing a live performance and you need a pickup mic that's specifically in a certain place on your instrument. You just want to pick up the sound of the room generally. I hope that helps. Thanks, Paula. Thanks, Katrina. Thank you, Kate. La 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 la. Q&A will be on the recording. Yes, Chevy. We'll leave everything in there. I'll probably get rid of that first chit-chat bit that I did at the very start. Thank you for all the thank yous, everyone. I won't say thank you personally to everyone. Such a valuable session. Thank you, Sarah. That's really great. Yeah, okay. Andrew said Yeti microphone. That sounds good. Yeah, the Yeti's really good. The Yeti is a really popular option. Definitely try that one. It's not that expensive. In Australia, I want to say it's around $150. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, check it out. The Yeti's quite flexible, and it just plugs into your USB slot, on your laptop. Thanks, Cassie. Thanks, Wong, Corinne, Beck. All right, scrolling down. What lessons to local computer recording lessons to local computer will space be an option? Lynette, that's a really great question. Yes, and no. Yes and no for the problem. So I meant to add that actually into the presentation. I felt like it was just getting too long, but when you record in Zoom and in Skype, my understanding is that both platforms actually store the recording in the cloud. Let's start with Skype actually. So when you hit record in Skype, and I tested this yesterday, you hit record, you do your thing, you press stop on the recording at the end of the lesson. For a minute, it looks like nothing is happening. So just be prepared for that. And then the video itself appears in the chat window between you and the other person. So instantly, both of you can see the video that's been recorded in Skype. And at that point in time, it is actually living in the cloud. It's not stored locally on your computer. It automatically gets stored on the Skype Microsoft servers. Then at that point, you have an option to click a button which says download, and that will bring it down to your local laptop hard drive, and your student can do the same thing. Now, the reason you want to do that is because Skype says it's going to delete that video after 30 days. So it will store it in its space for 30 days for you online. And then if you don't download it in that time, it's going to disappear. So you want to download it. Now, I think if you're going to do this with every single lesson, I'll get to Zoom in a moment, but if you're going to do this with every single lesson, it's super important for you to set up a workflow. So what I mean by that is, let's say you run lessons all day Friday and all day Saturday. You're going to end up with hours of video, and you're downloading them all to your laptop, for instance. You are going to have a checklist which says at the end of the day, you move all of those videos to an external hard drive. I can highly recommend doing that on a regular basis. If you're only teaching a couple of lessons a day, you can do it once a week. But if you are teaching full days, you've got 6 hours, 12 students in total, whatever it is, you really want to do that on a regular basis at the end of the day or every couple of days. Otherwise, you will fill up your hard drive too quickly. So I would get a workflow. I would set up a checklist for yourself, which says end of day things to do, turn off microphone, unplug this, whatever it is, and then also move videos to hard drive. I would just make they're organized, make sure they're labeled. I think from memory, the Skype one is labeled automatically with your name and the other person's name because it's in the Skype account. Don't quote me on that. The Zoom ones, when you record your Zoom call, you hit record, you do your thing, you press end, and then nothing happens until you end the meeting. So you'll end the meeting, and then it will say processing video or something to that effect on the screen. And this has actually just made me think that option that I said about setting one Zoom meeting up for the entire day is not a good idea if you're going to record all your lessons, because you don't want a 6-hour video to be processing at the end of your teaching day. So I may remove that option actually from my list. You want to just end the call. You'll see it's processing. And Zoom actually does put it automatically on your hard drive. At least it does for me. I don't know if that's an option I've turned on, but it goes straight to my hard drive. You'll open a folder, and there's actually 2 or 3 things in the folder. One is just the audio, one is the video file, and there's something else random in there which you don't need to worry about. So again, you'll have it in the folder. And again, by the end of the day, I'd be moving them off onto a hard drive, or at the end of every couple of days. I hope that makes sense. Great. Yep. Our audio quality info was useful for Zoom. Thank you. Oh, Kat upgraded the chat window. I was wondering how we got up to 300. Thank you. Awesome. Oh, yeah. Katie A has just asked about flipping videos on teaching videos so that fingerings look right for students. Great. I'm so glad you brought that up. In both, if you're, for instance, using Loom or Screencastify, both of them have a little checkbox which says flip camera, and that is on by default. So I had someone in my community the other day ask the same question. She said, I recorded this whole video for my Year 8 students, and none of them told her that when you play the video, everything was backwards. So she was playing like a scale from low notes to high notes, and it looked totally the opposite. Like it looked like she was going down the keyboard, and the sound, though, was going up. So really off-putting. None of them told her, and she just watched it back and went, hang on, why did none of you tell me this? When you record, I don't know if you can do it after the fact, but when you record, there is definitely a checkbox that you can uncheck to basically stop the flipping of the camera. So that will give you that. And in whatever software you're using, I'm sure there will be a similar option. Connor asked about where's best position for your microphone. It's totally going to depend on your instrument and where the sound comes out of your instrument. So you can imagine with the tuba, the sound's going upwards. With a trombone, it's literally going down this way. And the piano, it's kind of everywhere. And if you're a vocal teacher, it's just out of one sound source and it's right here in front of your mouth. So yeah, I think the best thing is just to play and just to have an experiment. And this is where it's really great to have a friend that you can hook up with, log in together into the same lesson and ask them. This is what I did with Josh yesterday. Actually, earlier this week, I was testing stuff for my own choir rehearsal. I had a digital piano sitting here on the desk, and I wanted to know what the sound was like from the piano. Can my speaking voice be heard over the top while I'm playing? If I use this microphone, could you still hear the piano? And no, you couldn't, because this is a dynamic microphone. Piano sound wasn't good. I tested all of that out with him and we worked out the best options for my setup. So it's really instrument dependent, and also the timbre of the instrument is going to have an effect too. So obviously strings is going to be totally different from brass. Brass, it's going to be better if you're in a larger room and your microphone is not right next to the instrument. Otherwise, you're poor students. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, Mez. Yeah, I meant to look into that. I think so. The question about can we have a copy of the chat window? I think that's a great idea, and I think yes, I can export it. I really hope I can. Yeah, I can't keep up either. As you can see, I'm way behind. I'm about 10 minutes behind in the chat window at the moment. Jane, you're welcome. Thank you. How does everyone cope with so much screen time? Oh my gosh, yeah, me too. I've had headaches and dry eyes too. And yeah, I know. And so I just read the next question about the light being behind me. I know. I meant to actually adjust the blinds. I actually thought of that when I was saying it. I was like, oh no, in front of my window. Sorry, going back to the screen time question. It's super hard. The only thing I can recommend is that you must make sure that you get up and move away from the screen every now and again. Or if you can't do that, if you've got back-to-back lessons, which some of you do, just every now and again, and this may be while the student's playing, but make your eyes look away. Make your eyes look into the distance, because one of the issues is they're focusing on the same position all the time. Look around. There's actually no kidding, eye exercises that you can do. You can do, and it's just simple, side to side eyes, up and down eyes, go in a circle eyes, go back the other way. It actually does help. And that's another reason for maybe considering some asynchronous teaching options where, you're doing some things ahead of time and then you don't need to be online all the time. So I don't know, not one solution, but yes. Claire's feeling great now. Good. I love to hear that. Peter's question about plugging the smartphone into the laptop as a second camera. Yes, you can. So there's a few ways you can do it. If you have two Apple devices, if you have a Mac, a laptop, and an iPhone or iPad, you can actually do it by AirPlay. God, I get all the AirDrop, AirPlay things mixed up. AirPlay, you can actually bring it up as an option on your screen that way, if you know what I mean by that. The other thing I've done is to physically plug my iPhone with the charging cable into the laptop. So the charging cable has the USB at the other end, so that plugs into my laptop and then it becomes recognized as a device. So hopefully that's it. Debbie's just asked about recording lessons. Yes, I do use the Zoom recording feature. That's for the live lesson while it's happening. The recording that I was talking about with Loom, similar name, Loom and Screencastify, is if you want to make teaching videos ahead of time. So while you're not with the student, I tend to use those options. You can actually also use Zoom for that too. You can open up a meeting just with yourself and just teach that way and record that way. If that's suiting you, totally do that one too. I like the options that Loom and Screencastify offer me. And the main reason is that thing about if you use Zoom, you open up a meeting and record it and you're teaching that way, and then you want to send that video to the student, you have to download the video, you have to upload it somewhere. The video file size is quite large. If you use the other options like Loom and Screencastify, it does that it's just that simple thing of you get a link at the end. You don't need to worry about all those other things. So just depends on your situation. Great. It's a great video, Katie, really funny. I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but good. Yeah, Hugh, one of your schools is using Skype for Business and the other is Microsoft Teams, yeah. And hopefully you'll find that they're sort of, sorry, I know which one. She's Israeli. Oh, sorry, she's not Spanish at all, sorry. Yep, the funny video of that lady. Yep, it's been doing the rounds. Yes, I got it now. Okay, Hugh, yeah, and Hugh, hopefully you'll find that there's similarities between Skype and Teams. It's not too hard to switch between platforms if you need to. Christopher's asking about adapting teaching for younger students online, very young and grade 3 and 4. Yeah, this is a harder one, and this is where you're going to have parent support. And the suggestion that I've seen floating around is that you have very short activities. It's probably not dissimilar to what you would do in a normal lesson anyway. You may need to have the online face-to-face time being shorter, and then they do other things which make up the rest of your lesson time, because it's going to be hard to get them to sit still. They're going to think it's like a TV and walk away. Some of them, the TV's still playing, i.e. you are still talking and chatting. The parent involvement is definitely going to be key there. External speakers for improving laptop sound. There's lots of different options. And I will bring up the Bluetooth speaker thing here. I mean, I use this Bluetooth speaker every single day, not necessarily in this situation. This is just one of those Zoom, Boom and Loom, Boom, UE, whatever it is, Bluetooth speakers. I tend to avoid using Bluetooth anything when I'm in a live online webinar, teaching, lesson situation, just because, I don't know, there's more chances for things to happen and go wrong. For external speakers, I have 2 sets of speakers at home. Both of mine happen to be M Audio. Don't have to use that brand, but they're just small desktop speakers. I've got one on each side here, and they just both plug in to my laptop when I want to use them. They plug into the headphone port. They're just super easy to use, and they just give a really nice sound. So it depends how much you want to spend, I would say, is the answer to that. Yeah, John's saying Bluetooth speakers will save a USB port. Yeah, mine actually use the headphone port. So yeah, and this is why some people use a mixing desk, because it opens up more places for you to plug things in as well. Yeah, good. Someone's confirming parents must be involved. Yeah, agreed. Parent present. Yep, Mez has just said the same. Computer space, we've talked about that. Any suggestions about tuning? I'm guessing, Beck, you mean the students tuning themselves at the other end. Again, that's a really hard one. And again, parental involvement for younger students. It is a really hard one. That I've actually heard that that's a very common issue. It may be worth searching for that in the Facebook groups that I mentioned, just to see what people have suggested there. I don't have many suggestions other than, you sort of saying, yep, a bit sharp, a bit sharp, a bit sharp all the time. If the student is capable, or the parent is capable of using an app, the Tonal Energy app is really good and gives a very visual response to when you're in tune or out of tune. When you turn it on and have the tuner setting open, the face becomes smiley and green and grows in size for the longer they hold an in-tune note. And it goes, it has that confused face when it literally can't recognize the note. So if you play a string on a guitar and it goes, I don't know what you're playing there, it actually shows an emoji face which looks confused, like, and then it's like the sad or angry face or something like that when it's out of tune. That one I would suggest is probably a great visual. It's a paid app, but I don't think it's expensive from memory. It's a really good one. In the Zoom's audio settings, if you enable original, doesn't that pass? I'm not quite sure about that, Brett. The question about using original, Mark, doesn't that bypass all the noise suppression anyway? I'm not convinced it does. Oh, so 2 things. I found that I have to make sure that I keep turning on original sound in the Zoom actual meeting screen. When you open up a new meeting, you'll find the original sound is probably off again and you need to turn it back on again. So I would say that the noise suppression settings that you've already also turned off, are good for if you forget to turn original sound on. You've kind of got like double insurance. I might be completely wrong about that. Sarah, would you suggest keeping lessons one-on-one, or do you still think it's going to work to teach students that may have been a group or two during normal lessons at school? Sarah, I'm guessing you mean that you would have two students logging into your session from two separate households. Is that what you mean? I'm going to assume that that's what you mean. I think that it could be possible. I think it's going to be harder, and you are still going to need to do the your turn, my turn thing, and it's going to be with 3 people instead of 2. The 2 students are not going to be able to play together, and that's probably what you would have done in a normal lesson. You say something or play something, and the 2 students will play together at the same time. That's not possible in an online session. So it'll be less playing in each lesson by each individual person, if you know what I mean. You'll have to just work that, or if you think that can work for the things that you're doing, by all means try it. Other than that, it's going to be harder. If students have the option of using their own iPad and don't have the... the question about audio settings on an iPad, are there other tips to get better quality of sound when using backing tracks? There's not many options on the iPad, is the bottom line. The one thing that I didn't get time to check, maybe someone else has tried this, I wondered, I don't think this is a thing, to be honest. I wondered whether there's an option to change any of those settings when you log into your account on the website, whether the parent could do that ahead of time. I don't think it is, though, because I think the audio settings are basically all in-meeting settings, not overall account settings. So I've said that out loud. It's probably not a thing at all. And you've said when using backing tracks, I'm not quite sure what that means. The backing track thing, there's sort of 2 options. The easiest option for the student, or the less confusing option, is to actually for them to be able to play a backing track from a second device if there is one handy. I'm not sure if that answers or helps your question. Julia's, saying her daughter's violin teacher uses Easter Bunny puppets for visual rewards. Great idea. So he's got another online training. Great, go for it. There's, lots of high fives. And, there's things you can do to hold stuff up in your camera, which could help pictures, or I don't know. I don't know if that's a help at all, but holding things up can be quite useful. Yeah, Warwick's just saying that thing I was saying about Skype only stores videos for 30 days. Correct. Yep. Thank you, Sally. Paige, I'm still catching up a lot on those questions. Sorry. If you want to have students using backing tracks, I'm a voice teacher. Do they need to have those backing tracks played through a separate device? Oh, yep. Goes all digital and distorted. Yep. Okay, so with the backing tracks thing, this is the 2 best ways you can get students to play along with the backing track is option A, you send the backing track to them ahead of time so they have it at their end, and they can either play it on the device that they're also connecting to you with, if that makes sense. So the sound of their instrument and their backing track is all on the one device. I'm going to guess that the sound result at your end as the teacher is not going to be awesome. The second option is that they play the backing track on a second device. This may not be an option for everyone, of course. And the sound of that and their instrument is going both into the microphone. There's not a fantastic option. There's one other option too. The third option is, and this is just for Zoom, I did describe this in the session, is that you have the backing track on your laptop, and in Zoom there's a button for you to share your screen. So when you click that, you can say, I want to show something that's on my computer screen. If you go into the advanced options of that, you can actually choose to share computer sound only. So it won't share a visual thing. It'll just share the sound of a backing track if you want to. So I did this the other night with my choir. I basically, and this was just a test for me to see if it worked okay. I had a backing track on my laptop. I shared my computer audio the way that I just said in Zoom. I pressed play on the backing track, And at their end, at the end of the choir members, they could hear the audio really nicely and they could sing or play along. Now, this is where it's not going to be a good option for you. You, as a teacher, cannot sing or play along with that backing at the same time because the person at the other end is going to hear those two things out of time with each other. If you unmute, I didn't test this with them, but if you unmute the person at the other end, it may be possible that the sound that's coming back to you also is not in time with each other. So I don't even know. Maybe this is not a good option at all. It's just one other way of getting the sound of the backing track out. Yeah, Kat's just saying about channel energy, yeah. Yeah. There's a difficulty, for violin teaching when you're doing tuning, it's very hard to get them to describe how to use the pegs over a video lesson, yeah. Yeah, Christopher said less is more, great. Thank you, Kat. Generously spirited, thank you. Sally. Great question about the blue snowball. Is the blue snowball omnidirectional? The blue snowball actually has options. So, yes, it is. There's a button with three options on the back. Option 1, I think from memory, is directional. So it'll just pick up the person in front or the instrument in front. Option 2 is omnidirectional and will pick up everything around. And option 3 is for louder input, so rock band and so on, and it will actually compress or reduce the input that's going into the microphone. I don't use option 3 ever, really. I don't have a need for it. So option 1 or 2. And don't get them mixed up. If you find the result from your blue snowball is not what you wanted it to be, check the setting on the back because you may have had it in the wrong place. Julia's saying, how long should we keep recorded lessons? That's totally up to you and your policy and what you want to do for privacy reasons. I know one school of, where they deliver instrumental lessons is they are going to keep them and archive them. So indefinitely they will keep them. Totally up to you and why, the reason why you're recording them really. Do you want to record them just for your own purpose or just for the student's purpose, or is it because you need to keep an archival copy? I would suggest it's not a bad idea to just keep them in an archive somewhere, just in case, down the track, just in case. It's horrible that things are that way, but look, I would do that. There's no harm to sticking things on an external hard drive. External hard drives are super cheap to buy, really. Like for $100 or so, you can get multiple terabytes of storage space. That's a lot of storage space. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Keys. Thanks, Julian. Terry. Terry wants to record the class and post to YouTube with a private link so it's not searchable and then put the link on Google Classroom. Yep. And if that workflow works for you, fantastic. Yep, great. And I will say with Loom and I think with Screencastify too from memory, you can also, the links to those videos that you make in both of those options, there are similar privacy setting options to what you see in Google related products. So you can have a private link, you can have, like basically only the person with the link can view it, or you can have it public so that anyone can view it. I feel like there's something in between. So it's up to you how visible you want any of your videos to be, but you do have those options there too. Oh, and by the way, also with Loom and Screencastify, there's also the option to download whatever you've recorded from there and then upload somewhere else like YouTube. So to me, they still have the best of both worlds options, the best of all worlds options, just for quick and easy videos. Yep, great. Thank you, Wendy. Oh, see you to practice, Wendy. Oh yeah, Chris is saying that he or she will see Wendy for practice. Good, great to see people are organising practice sessions. Thanks, Leanne. Okay, so for ideas for teaching prep to 6 classroom music, I have another webinar next Thursday exactly on that topic, and it's starting at 10 a.m. Melbourne time. So come to that one. I won't talk about that today because most of the people here today are private instrumental studio, whatever you want to call yourselves, teachers. But yeah, I'm totally going to talk about classroom ideas next week. So next week I'm running 3 webinars. This exact one again on Wednesday. So don't come to that one because it's going to be the same. I will run on Tuesday. I'm going to do one for ensemble leaders. So I've called it for band orchestra choir teachers, because a lot of people I do stuff with are in the States, and that's their terminology, band orchestra choir. Just know that it's for ensemble leaders in general. And then on Thursday, I'm doing an primary middle school session, which is on classroom music teaching ideas. So if you want to come to any of those, if you're on Facebook, I've put Facebook events up on my page for all three of those. Cheryl, thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Cade, can you use one mic for instrument and one for voice? Yes. And you would need an interface for that. Correct. So you can plug in two separate mics. So let's say you're an acoustic guitar player. I'm just picking something I can picture this with. Acoustic guitar player, maybe that's what you are. And you want to pick up your voice and you want to pick up the guitar, specifically separately. You can plug the vocal mic and the guitar mic. So you'll have a mic on a stand pointing to the guitar sound hole, and plug both of those into your audio interface. And then the audio interface is the one single thing that gets plugged into your laptop. And then you choose that as your input device inside Zoom or Skype or Teams or whatever it is you're using. Great way to do it. It's a similar thing to the way I showed earlier, the electric guitar option. You just wouldn't have an amp involved, but hope that makes sense. Thank you, Andrew, the piano teacher. You're welcome. Thank you. Electronic tuning apps for students to use. You mean digital, I'm guessing. So Tonal Energy is the one that everybody seems to love the most. There are many other tuning apps. There are some free ones out there. Honestly, I would just go to the App Store and look for the ones with good reviews. Those sorts of apps seem to change all the time, like disappear and appear and stuff like that. There's many, many, many options. Audrey's feeling so dumb. Oh, no. Just had to go at the 3 easy steps and can't get past 2. I can't remember what step 2 was. Is it to do with verifying your email or something? Might be the thing. So download Zoom. The basic steps for Zoom are you'll download the software to your laptop or desktop computer. You need to set up a free account, and they will do that thing where they'll send you an email to verify your email address. I don't think there was much more to it than that. Then you get a chance to go through your settings and stuff. Do Bluetooth speakers cause lag issues? No, not quite. The Bluetooth issue that I found is I just find that Bluetooth's not like 100% always awesome. I mean, really, I have never had an issue with the speaker that I use. I just wouldn't use it in a situation where it's crucial that it works, if you know what I mean. I use my Bluetooth speaker for playing music at home all the time. Every day I play my iPad audio through there when I'm watching Netflix, all of that stuff. Never had an issue with it. But would I use it when I'm presenting a session to 200 people in an auditorium? No, I really wouldn't. Would I use it in a concert to play a backing track while my choir is singing? I really wouldn't. But anyway, that's that. So no lag issues as such. Thank you, Sarah. Audrey's not alone in problems with Zoom. Don't know if I can really help you with the Zoom specific questions. Definitely get on their support pages and that sort of thing. And if you just Google your issue, you will find results. What if the student presses record? Katrina, from memory, I think that, look, it depends what system you're using. Skype notifies both people if the record button is pressed, which is a great thing because you as a teacher will know if the student presses record. In Zoom, I believe that, I honestly don't know, but I think from memory only the host can record the session. So if you have set up the meeting, you are the host and you can record the session. I don't know if there's even an option to turn on to allow the students to record. There may be. You could look into that and see if there is. Either way, the systems usually notify you. If you're worried, I'm trying to guess where you're coming from with that question, I guess. Nadine, you're welcome. Thank you. The Zoom HR mic, can that be used for better sound? Yeah, oh god, another thing called Zoom, I know. So the Zoom HR mic, that's the little handheld audio recording device. I have heard that people are using that. I haven't done it myself. I think you can plug that in directly to your plug that Zoom mic into your laptop and then Zoom, the software, can be used as your microphone input. I have heard that that's possible. No, Audrey, don't. No, I hope it doesn't make you feel stupid. Audrey, let me know. I haven't scrolled down through the whole chat window. I'm still going. There's an awful lot underneath where I'm up to, so maybe you've typed later on. But hang around after we've wound up, and I'll see if I can help you out. I'm not sure what you're seeing at your end. That's the thing, I guess. Yes, comment about typing lesson notes into the Zoom chat window. Absolutely. Zoom's got a great chat window function and Zoom can save them. Yep, it's really good. Does the student see the whole day or just their bit of the lesson time, do you mean? Katrina, that would be where if you set up your Zoom meetings or Skype calls as separate lessons, that's actually going to be better. Forget what I said about doing one Zoom meeting link for the whole day. I don't think that, now that I think about it, I don't think that's going to be a great option. So you would have just their meeting time. Each student in Zoom will get a different meeting link, and the meeting is recorded just for that one standalone meeting, so they'll only see their bit. Thank you, Lynette. Hugh feels good about the keep it simple approach. Awesome. Just try that to start with, try that to start with. How do I stop pop-ups during Zoom for ads? Lisa, are you using the desktop app version of Zoom? I haven't seen any ads I don't get any ads in mine. So you need to download the Zoom thing, the Zoom application. Sorry, my brain's going fuzzy. And I'm guessing you're on the website version. That's what I'm trying to say. And you're seeing ads there. I wasn't even aware that there were pop-up ads there. Anyway, give that a go. Thank you, Karen. Christopher's suggesting turn it off and turn it on. It is usually the solution. It sounds funny, but yes. Shelley, thank you. You're welcome. Connor, it's up to you whether you record or not record. I'm just suggesting it as honestly, one reason is as a safety sort of thing, like to protect yourself as a teacher if there are any issues down the track. It's not necessary to record. Useful for your students if they want to go back to things. Yeah. What's up? Yep. Great. Yep. The comment about using Skype and WhatsApp and it's low tech and it's working. Awesome. I think that's the best approach. If it's working, stick with that. Totally. Yeah, Christopher's just said safety concerns back up for the teacher for recording. Yep. Oh, yes, Calliope, running a choir. If you are able to come to the session, I'm actually going to talk more about that because that's a different thing, running an ensemble, anything to do with ensembles. That's the topic of Tuesday's webinar next week. If you can't make it, you can get the replay link. I won't go into it now because that's a whole nother discussion and it will take another 90 minutes, but that's what I'll talk about on that one. Yeah, Hugh's just saying with the trombone, play to the side of the mic, not directly. I think that's true of many, probably I'm picturing all the brass instruments. You don't want to, it's kind of good to play not straight into the mic and deafen the students at the other end. This is where you need a friend to test things out with. Yep. Corinne's asked about any thoughts on copyright issues if a student wants help on a piece the music teacher doesn't have. Oh, so Corinne, just in the last couple of days, no kidding, the publishing companies, and I don't know which ones precisely, I'm pretty sure Hal Leonard and I'm pretty sure Alfred, and maybe others as well, have actually lifted some of the copyright restrictions on digital copies of music. Can you believe it? They're like moving into like the current times. That's awesome. So just look into that. You may be okay. And they're doing this because everybody needs to share things like that. So hopefully that solves your issue. Jack's saying Zoom issues. Yep. Yep, it's internet. It's totally internet issues. Audio dropping out, frozen screens, playback faster when resuming. Yep, Jack. So things to do to improve that. If your internet is not good, do you know that there's the speed test website? If you just, I'll just type it in. If you look up speed test, you can actually see what your internet speed is at that moment of the day. Speedtest.net, that's the one I use. You can check your speed. I've lost your comment now. Oh man, I'm so behind on the comments. Sorry. We may be here forever. If you need to leave, it's totally fine. uh, uh, uh. Oh, I've lost the comment. Anyway, about internet speed, you can test your own speed, see what it is. If you have the funds and you're in an area which allows it, you can always increase the quality of your internet setting. I don't think a lot of people know that. With NBN, they give you kind of like the medium best option. So up to 50 megabits download speed. It's actually the upload speed which you really want to have improved, because the upload speed, well, no, you want both. The upload speed is going to help your students see your picture better. The download speed is where you're going to see them better, if you know what I mean. So improving, so at the level of Telstra or whatever, you can actually upgrade your account to get a better internet speed. It's going to cost you more per month. If you don't want to do that, and or other things you can do, you need your laptop or whatever device to be as close to your router as possible. If you can, I'm looking around to show you. I don't have one handy. Get an Ethernet cable. That is the internet plug-in cable, and you'll plug that from your laptop into your router directly. That's going to improve things. So as soon as you're on Wi-Fi, as in wireless, it's going to be less good quality with your internet connection. If you have a wall between you and the router, it's not going to be as good. If you've got other people in your house that are watching Netflix, kick them off. That's going to not help at all. If you have a teenage son playing PlayStation, streaming video games, kick them off that too. All of those things are totally going to affect. That is the biggest thing that will affect. It's not Zoom, unfortunately. It's not Zoom, it's you. Really, it really is the internet. And if it's with a student, and the student, like if you're having trouble with seeing the student and they're glitchy at their end, their internet's probably really crappy. So things that you can do when you're on a call, if you don't need to show your face on the video for a while, you can actually turn your video off, and that's going to improve the sound of the call. So it's not going to be so useful for these one-on-one lesson situations, but I know I do this in meetings. If I'm just chatting to someone and one of us has got dodgy internet that day, and sometimes the weather literally affects this too, one of us will, or both of us will turn video off, and it's improved. That's not going to always work in this situation with with teaching, because you need to see people. I feel like I'm so super behind on the questions. I have no idea where I was up to. I'm going to just pick stuff. Debbie held her tuner to the screen and it worked for the student. Great tip. Paige thinks that the kids will learn so much about online learning, they'll teach you. Creating tutorial videos for tuning. That's a great suggestion too. Awesome. Thank you, Connor. All right. Oh, Paige, just reading a thing about they could hear the backing track fine. I couldn't hear them singing or their backing track because of distortion. Yep. I've been asking them to play backing tracks on a second device. Yeah, I know. I don't know that there's a great workaround for that. Do you know what? The one workaround I would suggest, and this may not be a solution for everyone either, but if they can record for you away from the live lesson situation, so before the lesson, let's say, you might say to them, can you please play your backing track and record yourself playing or singing over the top of it, and then send me that file? I don't know, that might be one way to get around it, because they could do it maybe more easily and the sound quality would be better. Oh, thank you. Someone posted their band, orchestra, choir session. Thank you. Bill, yes, you'll still get a certificate. That's all fine. We will send the link out around 24 hours. Let's just say Monday for safety because it's Friday today and getting late. I'm skimming through. I'm so sorry if I do miss your question. You're welcome, Angela. She says, thanks for helping us to survive. uh, Katerina, super clear. Thank you. Oh, good. Feeling more confident. That was my main aim. Feeling more confident. That is the thing I hope for the most. Um, Mez, the question about does Skype have the ability to show multiple videos at the same time as Zoom does? So if you as the teacher have two camera inputs, i.e. your inbuilt laptop camera and an external thing plugged in, when you're presenting to your students, you actually need to switch between the two. So you're not actually showing both at once at that time. And Skype does exactly the same thing. You just go from input source A to input source B and back and forth again. That thing that I showed you during the session, that drum teacher who blew my mind because he suggested that you actually log yourself in twice under two different accounts into the same session. That would allow you in Zoom to show two cameras at once on the screen, and the student will be the third thing. And you cannot do that in oh, actually, no, you can do that in Skype too. You could do that in Skype too. Yep. You'd have a three-way call going in Skype. I think try it. Yeah. Julia, I will post the links in for the other webinars actually, just while I'm still scrolling through. This is I'll actually post in the direct pages for signing up. This is the elementary middle school one. I know someone posted the band orchestra choir one, but I'll just pop it in here so they're all together. This is the band orchestra choir one. And this is the other one. This is the third one that I'm pasting in here is the one that's the same as today. I will put it in there in case you want to send that to anyone else that didn't come today and you think they might want to join in next week. All right. Tuning out's okay. I'm just still skimming through random comments now. Thanks, Connor. Yeah, comment about use this time to teach music theory. Yep. With teaching music theory at this time, I agree. I think it's a great time to, take the pressure off and maybe not do everything as live online lessons. I think the danger is that, and I've seen this with all teachers of all types, all music teachers. So from the ensemble leader teacher to the classroom teacher to the private instrumental teacher, which are all very different roles. Everyone's first thought is to try and replicate exactly what you do in person in an online format. And I just think it's it's maybe a dangerous way to think. There are certain things that you can do, which will be the same, and there are a lot of things you can't do, and the platform just won't allow for things to happen the way you would in person. So I think it's a great idea to consider some other things like teaching theory or ear training. Wouldn't it be awesome if your kids came out after 8 weeks with really good ear training, like really good oral skills? That would be an awesome result. And to mix it up maybe is especially good. You could do alternate weeks with different things on. Whether the parents are happy with that or not, I don't know. But look, I think it's a really good idea. As for the best way to do that, again, you can do some live sessions where you're teaching them live the concepts that you want to teach them. Having said that, you can easily record video lessons, teaching videos ahead of time to teach them what you want. And then you post a link to that video somewhere. The student watches it whenever they have time to and whenever they have access to a device. And in that video, you might ask them to do something to show their learning. So there might be, something that they're going to record to show you that they understand the rhythmic concept you've taught them, or they might do some sort of exercise online or answer a quiz in a form or something like that. There are lots of options. I can highly recommend going into those Facebook groups that I mentioned because people are sharing stacks and stacks of stuff along those lines. And also, there are lots of people sharing their own teaching videos that they've already made that they're happy for anyone to use. Try not to reinvent the wheel straight away. Go and see if other people have stuff that you can use. Just be mindful, those Facebook groups, there's a lot of US-based people in there, so the terminology may be not what you want to use. So it's, quarter notes and half notes and so on. It may be adaptable also. Lots and lots of ready-made options. That's actually one of the things I'm going to recommend first off in at least 2 of the webinars next week, is that if you're making teaching materials for your students, really, and you're struggling with this whole tech setup and that's, everything's freaking you out, go use ready-made stuff to get you through for a couple of weeks at least, and then start making your own teaching videos. You can do that anytime, but you don't need to do it straight away, I think. More questions. I'm just scrolling again, sorry. Excellent. Amy B have free online course offer grade 1 to 3 for the next 3 months. 6 months, sorry. Yes, lots of organisations that support music teachers, sell products to music teachers normally are making a lot of stuff free or low cost at the moment. You've guest 9651 has done books in bags dropped on student doorsteps. That sounds awesome. Calliope, did you get the link, hopefully, for the ensemble one? I'm way back in the comments again. I keep scrolling and getting totally out of order. Video recording webinar, ? From Sue Rogerson. Okay. Is that the question about, is this being recorded? Yes, it is, if that is. Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Keys. Thanks, Mez is a great, YouTube. There's so many great videos on YouTube. I'm actually gathering a list of kind of good quality YouTube channels, i.e. play-along channels, teaching channels, and so on. Yep, Neil saying Star Wars eChalk are quite useful because you can share a screen with the students. Yep, that's great. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yep. And Deb Smith, we love Deb Smith. Yep, she's making lots of stuff available too. All right, I know I've missed a lot of things. I'm going to wind it up, though, I'm going to say. We did go a lot longer than I thought. I was thinking we'd be done by maybe 1. I'll wind up. My voice is starting to go, too much talking, and I'm sure many of you have to go as well. I'm just trying to think of the best. Look, if you've got questions, I'm going to be honest with you. At the moment, my email and my Facebook notifications and Facebook Messenger are like a massively fast-flowing river that I cannot keep up with. So you can try emailing me if you have a follow-up question, and I will try to get back to you. I just can't guarantee how instantaneous that will be. I am also in those Facebook groups, and again, I'm not in them all the time, but those Facebook groups are such a source of information. Do go into them, join both of them, and go in there and use the little search bar. If you're on a laptop, the search function's on the left-hand side. If you're on a phone, there's a little search magnifying glass at the top. Go in there and just type a couple of keywords in for what you want to know. So like music theory, for instance, and just type that in and see what pops up, and you'll see lots of ideas for music theory or teaching videos or play along channels or play along videos or something like that. So many useful things already being shared in there, and heaps of teachers are sharing actual files that you can use. So if you want a list of activities for instrumental students or whatever it is, I can guarantee there are some in there already, and teachers are sharing like the Google Doc or the Google slideshow or the spreadsheet or whatever it is. Lots of people are sharing free Teachers Pay Teachers resources in there. I'm sharing free lesson plan related things and other stuff in there. Go check that out. Oh, Sue said you're going to do a webinar on videoing, on creating teaching videos. There is no link for that. No, not yet. I don't know if you're talking about a while ago. I wanted to actually create a full course on making teaching videos. I still really want to do that. That had to go on the back burner for many reasons. Um, Coronavirus, just one of those many reasons. That's probably a next year thing to have a proper course done, but I actually so I know what you mean. You mean in one of the webinars I'm going to talk about creating teaching videos? Yes. In the I will probably cover it, to be honest, in both the Tuesday and the Thursday webinars. So the Tuesday one with the view for ensemble directors, and the Thursday one particularly, that will be more so, that's for the elementary, middle school, primary, middle school classroom teachers. I am definitely going to cover it in that. I still find that most people have never tried it before, and it's just so easy and so useful to do, and totally going to cover it in that. So, yep, come to the Thursday one or sign up for it if you can't be there live, and you'll get the link for the replay, hopefully. Unless you've got an Gmail email address, and then in which case it may just disappear into the ether. Anyway, if you are signing up for my webinars, what we've learnt from this week for this one is that I don't know why, but some people with their Gmail addresses were getting some emails and not others, like the one with the link to the webinar in it. So if you have a different email address, like a Gmail address, like a personal one, you'll probably find that that's easier. Use that to sign up with, and you'll get everything, hopefully. I hope I got the answer to that right then. Is that's what you meant? Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Anne. Yeah, go check out equipment. Go play. Karen, what if two teenagers are online with their classroom teachers while I need to teach? I know. That's, Karen, such a hard thing. I don't know, honestly. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. Look, if you had a data plan that was fairly big, or they had a data plan that allows you, yeah, that's a really hard one. And honestly, I'm going to be facing that in exactly 1 week and a bit. Like after Easter, my kids are going to be doing that. They're going to be online with their teachers. I'm not sure yet how much of the day they're going to be online, and it's a really hard question. So I don't have a great answer. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the hard thing about this time. It's not like, I think a lot of people are like, yeah, that's not so hard. You just like sign in online. Yeah, but what if you've got 5 people in your house and you all need to work online at the same time? There's no good solution for that. If you do have that option of upgrading your connection at all, your NBN or whatever you've got, if you've got non-NBN still, that could be a go. It's really hard. It's really hard. Kick them off as soon as they're done. See, that was the right one. Excellent. Great. The webinars next week they're each at 10 a.m. So earlier than today's one, 10 a.m. Tuesday, 10 a.m. Wednesday, 10 a.m. Thursday. That's because it's 8 p.m. in US Eastern Daylight Time. It's kind of a happy medium for a few places around the world. It's not ideal for everybody. It actually works quite well for us here at the moment, and especially because everyone's at home anyway. Like, what else would you be doing apart from attending my webinars? And Leanne, if you scroll back up a little bit, I've posted the 3 links to those in the chat. We just sort of popped them up yesterday, I think, online. Thanks, Lynette. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, guest 4977. Great. All right, I'm going to sign off now. I'll have the chat window going for a little bit, and the actual video on this page will be on here for a while. So even if you come back later today, you'll be able to watch it on this page. Eventually, it will disappear from this page and be moved to a special replay page. But for the moment, at least for the next day, you can direct friends here. If you have friends who would like to watch this, you can direct them to this. Oh, so you can't scroll back far enough. I'll pop them in again. Hold on. We need to set these up on a single page somewhere. We will do that. This one is here. That's the band orchestra choir one. So that's on Tuesday. This one is the Thursday one, which is the elementary. And I'll pop the third one in there, but like I said, the third one, which is on Wednesday, is the same as today's session, give or take. Guest 1279, it was 7 a.m. when I started. Well, not for me, it wasn't. It was 11 a.m. when I started. Maybe where you are, it was 7 a.m. Most of the people watching this session today are based in Melbourne, so 11 a.m. for us here. But yes, the ones next week, yeah, the ones next week, there will be people from all over the world, and we will all be in different time zones. It's so funny. This is just between us, everybody here. It's so funny, but the people in the States, I think here we're much more used to double checking what time zone thing. Like if I see a webinar advertised, I'd never assume it's in my time zone. I'm always like, oh, I wonder what time zone that's actually in. And then I'll find out and see what it translates to me. But in the States, they just assume that everything's in their own time zone. So, and even with the different time zones across the country. So like I had people logging into a webinar last week or the week before, and they're like, oh, I didn't realize it started at 8 p.m. US Eastern Standard Time. I thought it started at Pacific time or whatever. It's just funny. I put it everywhere. Every time I list a webinar start time, I have everything very explicitly written. It's this time in US Eastern Standard Time. It's this time in Melbourne. And then I also have a link for here's where you can check your local time, but still there's the question. It's funny. Thank you, Leanne. The Facebook groups. Yeah, let me paste them in. If you're still online and you want to hang for a second, I'll just paste in the links to those 2 Facebook groups. You'll need to answer questions and be admitted to them because they, they're set up as like private groups, but you just have to say that you're a teacher or whatever it is. Here. E-learning in music education, that's one of them. And this second one is actually bigger, set up by my friend Elisa. You saw my dog in the background. Yeah. She's been really good, actually. She's gone off to sleep again. Yes, Julia, you definitely need to be a member of Facebook to join Facebook groups. Correct. If you're not keen on having a Facebook profile, just generally, what you can do is set one up and have it very private. You need to go if you're anti-Facebook, and I know lots of people are, that's okay. You can set your profile with no profile picture. You can actually have a pseudonym if you don't want your real name. Lots of teachers I know have a variation on their name, like a shortened version of their surname, like because they don't really want their teenage students finding them on Facebook. You can also go into your settings and make sure that things are turned off, like so people can't find you easily. There's a lot of settings you can adjust so that you're not really visible, and then you can still look in the Facebook groups. That's what I would suggest. Mez, school lessons and the clash of students made classrooms rental something. Yeah. I think, Mez, that the question earlier, if you're replying to that, I think that the person was saying that their own kids are going to be online learning with other teachers, as in my kids in a couple of weeks are going to be online with their science teacher and their maths teacher and their English teacher, while I may be wanting to run a live webinar. So I think, like 4 people in the house might all need to be running classes or attending lessons at the same time. I think that's what it was. And yes, in terms of, yes, if there are clashes also with the other lessons going on with the school, yes, they would do that. Yeah, Julia, summon up the courage. In my mind, with Facebook, if people are scared of it, maybe they don't realize that you have a lot of control over how you use Facebook. So you don't need to use it in such a way that you are found. You can be quite private on there. I have someone I know on there, and she said to me, "Look, I'm on Facebook, but my profile is so locked down and private because I don't want to be on Facebook, but I need to be able to connect with family members." And she wanted to see photos of the grandchildren, and that was where they were being shared. So she got on Facebook for that reason. But she said, like, "Don't be offended. We won't be Facebook friends because you won't ever find me." And I'm like, "That's fine. That makes total sense." You don't need to tell anyone that you're on Facebook. You can just have a little secret account if you want to. Yeah, and you're right. Yep. I like the advice of that last one. Give it a go, and if it's not for you, you can just delete your account. It's totally fine to do that. Under what name can you find the groups? The Facebook groups, scroll up a little bit. There's 2 links. I've just popped them in there, and it says the names of the groups there. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just the comment about time zones. Yeah, I know. I had to be very careful with next week's webinars because we are changing times on the weekend. And I was like, oh, so for a while now, at any given time of the year, I know that 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US, or daylight time for them, I know what time it is here in Australia. And it fluctuates depending on whether they've changed or we've both changed time zones or daylight savings and whatever. Um, so yes, I had to double check because we change on the weekend. Public service announcement if you didn't remember that. And instead of 11 a.m., which is equal to their 8 p.m., it's now going to be 10 a.m. Anyway, fun fact. Great. Yeah. Keep the secret, Julia. That's it. Yeah, and there are also just a comment about Facebook will still be spying on you. There is always an element of that. I think you just have to be buyer beware with anything that you sign up for. Any company that you sign up for, every social media thing, every single free app that you download, pretty much they give it to you free because they get the thing that they get back from it is data. They get data. They get data about how you use the app or where you are. That is just what it is. I just think you need to be aware of that, and then you make that decision. Are you wanting to let yourself be involved with that, or do you not want to? Yeah, that's it. All right, I really will sign off now. My throat's getting raw, I feel. Too much talking. This is what happens when you work from home for ages and you don't like go out and talk to people much, then your voice is not used to it. All right, goodbye everyone. And for those watching the replay, wow, if you stuck it out this long, good for you. We're nearly up to 3 hours, so commitment for anyone who's been on the whole time. Thank you for staying around. And if you come to next week's webinars, I will see you then. If you would like to share the links to those webinars with anyone, they are totally open to anyone to join in. Please go ahead and do that. I'd love to see people on there. We might have to expand the chat window capacity a third time. But anyway, thanks everyone. See you then.